The food-loving princess only cares about delicious meals, even as the kingdom faces destruction. She hums a tune while cooking carrot and mushroom noodle soup. When enemy soldiers come to the kitchen to capture her, she hurriedly grabs her enormous bowl and devours her food. If she don't eat, she won't get any more. With a dirty apron and a messy kitchen, the enemy soldiers doubt, "Are you really the sixth princess?" The food-loving princess nods absently while still eating. Somewhat bewildered, the soldiers grab her arms and take her away. The princess still thinks about her noodle soup. "Just one more bite, please." Don't blame her for not caring about the country, she's just a transmigrator, and worse, she's just cannon fodder. For cannon fodder, eating well is paramount. In the palace square, the defeated royal family kneels before the enemy duke, while the food-loving princess acts like a late moviegoer. "Excuse me, let me through." She kneels in her spot amidst everyone's astonished stares. The female lead kindly reminds her, "This is the royal family's place. Kneeling here is more dangerous." The food-loving princess points at herself, confused. I'm a princess too." But her little cook's outfit isn't very convincing. The red-haired princess nearby laughs mockingly. "You must be the princess living in the abandoned palace." The palace crowd immediately buzzes with gossip. Even facing doom, they can't resist drama. The food-loving princess doesn't care. "Mock all you want. We'll all die here anyway." Suddenly brought here, her mind is filled with thoughts of her unfinished noodle soup. If she must die, she wants to die with a full stomach. While others look at the enemy duke with fear, she stares at his chocolate-colored uniform, thinking it looks delicious. As others focus intently on the plot, the innocent female lead bravely asks the duke, "What do you plan to do with us?" The foolish king desperately begs for mercy beside her, while the food-loving princess secretly takes out snacks and starts immersive watching, recalling the upcoming plot. Unfortunately, the enemy duke notices her small movements, and angrily starts to scold her. The innocent female lead courageously stands in front of her. "If you have a problem, deal with me. Don't touch her." The food-loving princess is touched but can't help but quip, "This sister probably doesn't even know who she is right now." As the two face off dramatically, the little foodie again loses herself in the immersive drama. That's right, this is the part. The cruel duke becomes interested in the brave princess, and a painful romance begins. Spoilers are so satisfying, the foodie thinks, giving 2 thumbs up. Coming back to her senses, she sees the duke standing before her, looking serious, as if curious about her recent actions. With her life in danger, the foodie is still pondering whether the cheese beef stick tastes bad. Cheese and beef should be the perfect combination. Why doesn't the duke like it? A group of soon-to-be-conquered royals kneel before the enemy duke, while the transmigrated cannon fodder side character immerses herself in the drama. She sneaks some private snacks to go with it, but her furtive eating movements are noticed by the duke, who mistakenly thinks she's hiding poison. He orders soldiers to search her, and they find a freshly made beef stick. The atmosphere suddenly becomes tense. "Quickly, tell us. Is this a weapon or poison?" The soldiers noisily question her. The duke even draws his sword, ready to strike if she doesn't explain clearly. The foodie feels she's about to be defeated by these idiots. Haven't they ever seen a cheese beef stick? She musters all her strength and shouts loudly, "It's a cheese beef stick, not poison." The duke thinks he's misheard and asks a soldier to confirm. The kneeling royals are so shocked their mouths gape wide enough to swallow a pig whole. "We're waiting for death and fear, and you're secretly eating beef sticks." The food-loving princess takes advantage of the duke and others' discussion to sneak behind the female lead. "Sister is so kind, protect me a little, will you?" "Love you." The stubborn innocent girl cooperates, spreading her arms to shield the little foodie. She's been abandoned since childhood and had a hard life, so she's greedy for food. She's actually a good child. The food-loving princess also mutters quietly, "That's right, I'm a good child. What's wrong with being a little greedy?" After thinking for a moment, she bravely approaches the duke and offers him one of her beloved cheese beef sticks. "Duke, why don't you try a bite?" Although reluctant to part with the beef stick, she thinks, if the duke likes it, maybe he'll let her go? In the foodie's world, there's nothing good food can't solve. Under the fierce gaze of the soldiers, the duke takes the beef stick, and takes a bite, and then the food-loving princess is thrown into the dungeon. She can't understand it. Is the cheese beef stick not tasty? She's about to cry. It was so delicious, but after eating it, he still threw her in the dungeon. What a waste of good food and effort. Seeing the guard, she remembers her remaining beef sticks and, unwilling to give up, the foodie musters up courage to ask how they dealt with the remaining beef sticks. "You're about to die, yet still so greedy." The soldier sees this for the first time. He coldly replies, "The duke ordered them all disposed of." The foodie instantly feels like she's fallen into an ice pit. Damn it, the beef sticks are gone, and soon she'll be joining them. Dying for food is the highest realm for a foodie. But what if the duke thinks she's mocking him and increases her punishment? The more she thinks, the sadder she becomes. Not enough good food eaten, and now she has to suffer. Is this the fate of a foodie? What kind of low IQ duke is this? The food-loving princess says she's a witch, and the duke believes her. But the little foodie can understand too. According to the book, the duke's family is cursed by a witch, losing their sense of taste. No matter what food they eat, it tastes like chewing on bark. Looking at the duke who might force a confession from her, the food-loving princess decisively gives in, admitting she's a witch, and even rolls up her sleeve to show her cooking injury, saying it's a witch's mark. The duke shudders, believing her. So you really did cast a spell on the beef stick, allowing me to taste its flavor. The foodie avoids the duke's eyes guiltily. What magic? It's just naturally air-dried beef, with my secret sauce added for flavor. The duke looks shocked. There aren't any bugs in it, are there? The foodie is annoyed. This is an insult to a beautiful young cook. She looks at the duke expectantly after speaking, then nervously swallows. I've told you everything, so you won't torture me, right? The duke falls into deep thought. This princess's beef stick not only let him taste flavor but was even a bit delicious, so he'll keep her as his personal cook. He puts down the handcuffs. Alright, I won't torture you, but tomorrow you must cook for me. If I'm satisfied with the meal, I'll spare your life. Seeing the sky again, the foodie is nearly moved to tears. The urgent task now is to make a delicious meal to save her life. With high-quality ingredients freely available in the kitchen for the foodie princess to use as she wishes. Naturally grass-fed A5 Wagyu beef, plump cabbage needed for the ancient Eastern boiled cabbage dish. The little foodie ties on her apron, takes up her cooking utensils, ready to use her best skills. She can't let such good ingredients go to waste, and it's also to save her own life. Chop, 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 the skilled sound of cutting vegetables, the bubbling of boiling, the full blending of ingredients and sauce, a simple thickening, perfect completion. Next is to bring the food to the duke. The aroma along the way makes the little foodie's nose twitch constantly. The delicious food is right before her eyes but she can't eat it. How frustrating for this foodie. The lid is lifted, and the little foodie is confident. No one can resist thousand-layer hot pot. This was her favorite dish in her previous life, the LV of the hot pot world. The duke has never seen such food before. To be safe, he makes the little foodie eat first. This works out perfectly for the foodie who has been craving it for so long. First, she picks up some cabbage and meat, then dips it in peanut sauce, blows on it gently, and puts it in her mouth. Her taste buds explode, a heavenly delicacy, satisfying all a foodie's fantasies. For a moment, it's unclear if she's introducing the food or sneakily eating it. What a bizarre rule, to be thrown in the dungeon for cooking too well, then made to cook for the duke. The food-loving princess was thrown in the dungeon by the duke, because of a tasty beef stick, because the duke was cursed by a witch, unable to taste any food, yet he could taste the flavor of the beef stick made by the food-loving princess. Thus, he determined the food-loving princess was a witch. To keep it secret, the food-loving princess not only admitted to being a witch, but had to continue cooking for the duke. This time she made her favorite dish from her previous life, the Hermes of the culinary world, thousand-layer hot pot. For easier hot pot eating, she even made a pair of chopsticks. The duke is clearly interested in them, but the aroma of the food is also tempting. However, he hasn't started eating heartily yet, afraid the food-loving princess might have poisoned it. The foodie is annoyed. Please. The delicious thousand-layer hot pot should be eaten while it's hot. It won't taste good when it's cold. Her forceful manner intimidates the duke. Whatever the reason, the duke trusts her. He picks up his knife and fork, and starts eating the hot pot before him. When the sauce-covered thousand layers enter his mouth and stomach, what kind of feeling is it? The duke's sense of taste seems magnified 10,000 times. The perfect combination of high-quality beef and baby cabbage. He's never eaten anything so delicious in his life. Although the food-loving princess looks expectant, the duke is clearly a mischievous tsundere boy who won't say anything. But this can't fool a top-tier foodie. From the duke's expression, the food-loving princess has already read his feelings. Delicious, amazing, mind-blowing, so good, so good, so good. Important things must be said thrice. The food-loving princess's confidence swells, and she starts chattering about other ways to eat it. The duke suddenly stands up, almost flipping the table, and starts aggressively approaching the food-loving princess. The king promised me, after conquering this country, he would allow me to take one thing. I hadn't set my sights on anything before, but now I have. Woman, you've successfully caught my attention. Awkward and at a loss, the foodie panics. I don't want to catch the duke's attention. Shouldn't the second male lead prefer the stubborn innocent girl? Why would it be me? Wah, mom save me, this foodie just wants to eat happily. She tries to attract attention to her sisters. The strong-willed golden-haired eldest princess, the alluring red-haired second princess. Unexpectedly, the duke coldly refuses one by one. Seeing the foodie's unwillingness, the duke says fiercely, "Are you questioning my decision?" At this critical moment, the foodie's little tummy protests loudly. The protest is so loud, the duke calls for a guard, telling him to take the foodie down for a bite to eat, then continue to keep her locked up. He wants this little cook. Poor child, she's never eaten such delicious rice balls in her life. The food-loving princess won over the guard with just one rice ball. The hungry food-loving princess decides to make something to eat herself. Green peppers, carrots, onions, smooth fried eggs, skillfully stir-fried in the pan, then served, paired with rice, shaped into delicious rice balls. The foodie hums a tune, looking forward to the delicious food. The guard beside her curiously asks, "Are you chanting a spell?" The foodie is used to these brainless idiots by now. Yes, this makes the food taste better. Want to try? The guard points at himself in panic, then looks at the rice ball in front of him. The scene becomes bizarre. The tall, fierce guard gingerly holds the rice ball, chanting the spell with a shy face. It's unbearable to watch. The finished rice ball is super ugly. The foodie rolls up her sleeves. Watch carefully, I'll show you how to make one. After a burst of strange girl power kneading, she shapes a super delicious giant ball. A plump shape, fully mixed ingredients, one by one, looking great. The food-loving princess starts to taste her handiwork. Soft, glutinous, fragrant, and delicious. The guard also tries one. As the rice ball slides into his mouth, his eyes suddenly widen, too delicious to speak, moved to tears. Poor guard, he's never eaten such a delicious rice ball in his life. The food-loving princess starts packing rice balls to send to her royal family members later. The two arrive at the royal family's holding place. The food-loving princess feels a bit guilty. With so many princesses gathered, will they treat her like a servant? It's really troublesome. A princess like her, born in an abandoned palace, is probably just a dirty rag in their eyes. The foodie tearfully tries to make excuses not to go in. The guard shakes his head. "I can't disobey the duke's orders." The foodie swallows hard, putting on a resigned expression. "Charge. What's there to be afraid of? She survived in the hands of the crazy duke. Whether they treat her like a dirty rag or a maid, she can endure it." But when the royal family sees the foodie brought rice balls, they all pounce on her, forgetting their manners, just to fill their stomachs. The guard shakes his head. No wonder this country was conquered. Walking on the way to report to the duke, the guard meets a colleague coming to change shifts. Hearing his hungry stomach growling, he gives him his rice ball. The next second, the duke appears behind the two, thoughtfully staring at the rice ball in the guard's hand. Wonder what this rice ball tastes like? The princess no one cares about, became popular because of a bag of rice balls. The royal family locked in the room were all starving. Seeing the foodie bring rice balls, they all pounce like hungry wolves, instantly devouring all the rice balls. Empty backpack, empty heart. The foodie sheds tears of reluctance. My rice balls. The starving family members clearly can't hear the foodie's cries. They fight and grab, utterly frenzied. Just as the foodie is feeling sad, the innocent girl reaches out her hand. "Come sit here, the ground is cold." The food-loving princess says thanks, constantly sneaking glances at the innocent girl, as expected of the female lead. Even locked in such a place, she's still beautiful and graceful. Sitting properly lasts only 3 seconds before the food-loving princess starts craving again. She starts rummaging through her little skirt again. Luckily, she was smart and hid one last rice ball under her skirt. "I hereby declare you'll be my breakfast tomorrow, little rice ball." The sudden gaze attracts the foodie's attention. She sees the innocent girl staring intently at that rice ball. The foodie tries moving the rice ball. Down, up, wherever the rice ball goes, the innocent girl's gaze follows. The foodie calls her name, Sister Ingrid. The innocent girl comes to her senses, coughing awkwardly a few times. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize." "Don't worry, I won't steal your food." Looking at the others still fighting and grabbing, then at the polite and restrained innocent girl. Otherwise, how could she become the heroine? But she is still a human being, not a doll. And she still gets hungry. "Sister Ingrid, eat this," says the foodie, handing the rice ball to the innocent girl. The innocent girl quickly waves her hands. "No, no need. It's yours." The foodie reassures her, saying she's already eaten plenty earlier. "Go ahead, take it." After a moment of silence, the innocent girl accepts the rice ball, breaks it in half with both hands, and hands one half back to the foodie. "Half is enough for me. Thank you for sharing your rice ball with me." Her incredibly gentle smile, mixed with gratitude, instantly wins the little foodie's heart. Sister Ingrid is beautiful and kind-hearted, so touching. No wonder the Duke and Emperor are so fascinated by her. Female supporting characters who only live for 3 episodes, learn from this. Bang, the door is kicked open. The Duke has arrived. He walks up to the foodie and the innocent girl. "You, come with me." The food-loving princess who transmigrated here, originally wanted to be a happy foodie, but was unexpectedly won over by the beautiful and kind-hearted female lead. "Sister is so good, let's form a CP, male lead go away." But the cruel Duke wants to separate them. The innocent girl stands in front of the food-loving princess. "Sisterly love. If you want to take her away, you'll have to get through me first." The soldier roughly grabs the foodie's arm, but hears the Duke say, "Not her, the other one." Thud, the little foodie is thrown to the ground just like that. The soldier turns to grab the innocent girl and takes her away, leaving only the food-loving princess lying on the ground. Sister, don't go. How can I live without you? The Duke turns around. Now there's no one to interfere with us. Lead the way to the kitchen. The little foodie has mixed feelings. She thought the Duke was going to do something strange, scared her to death. Arriving at the kitchen, the foodie asks the Duke what she needs to do. The Duke, legs crossed, says leisurely, make me those rice balls. The ones you made for my subordinate. The food-loving princess feels like flipping out right there. Unsure, she asks again. In the middle of the night, you storm into the room aggressively, even take away my dear sister, just to have me make some rice balls? Is there a knife? I want to chop him to death. Although she wants to do this, the food-loving princess still values her life more. Damn man, I hope you choke on them when they're done. Under the Duke's fierce gaze, the tearful foodie chooses to submit. A great woman have to learn to hold back. While saying nice words, she starts cooking. From now on, you'll only cook for me, the Duke says in a low voice, walking towards the foodie. Whether it's my subordinates or your precious sisters, they can't have any. You can only cook for me to eat. I don't like lending out my things. The Duke speaks while leaning in closer and closer. Is the classic overbearing CEO scene about to unfold? The food-loving princess seems allergic to romance. I understand. However, the food is about to burn. The ambiguous atmosphere is instantly tinged with a burnt smell. Indeed, there's no love in the foodie's eyes. The Duke can only walk away. After the Duke leaves, the foodie covers her rapidly beating little heart. Mamma mia, so scary. The delicious food almost got ruined. The familiar rice balls are ready. The Duke picks up a rice ball and starts devouring them. One after another, as if he doesn't need to chew. The rice balls in front of him keep disappearing, and in the blink of an eye, only the plate is left. The Duke rubs his belly contentedly. Finally full. The foodie can't help but mock in her heart, eating enough for 6 people, how could you not be full? If a person like this hadn't become a Duke, they'd starve to death in our world. The cannon fodder female supporting character has changed this manga's bloodbath scene. The second male lead, who should have been obsessed with the female lead, is now obsessed with the cannon fodder supporting character's rice balls. One rice ball from the cannon fodder female supporting character has made the once loving second male lead and female lead turn against each other. Babies who want to eat rice balls, share this with a friend. I'll help you transmigrate into the story, to fight with the Duke for food. According to the original manga arrangement, the second male lead should have treated the female lead as his darling, but the second male lead directly locked the female lead in prison, not allowing her out. All because the female lead ate her delicious rice balls. The second male lead is still not satisfied. He tells the cannon fodder female supporting character, "You are mine. The food you cook can only be eaten by me alone." In other words, he's someone who doesn't share food. This leaves the cannon fodder female supporting character confused. The Duke's exclusive little cook, what a strange development. The second male lead also arrogantly announces, "From now on, you'll sleep in my room at night. No wandering around." The cannon fodder female supporting character is completely dumbfounded. For the sake of food, she's even going to be under house arrest. But under the Duke's strong authority, the cannon fodder female supporting character meekly accepts. She consoles herself, thinking the Duke's house is so big and rich, the bedroom must have at least 2 rooms. 1 person per room. But reality is always cruel. Looking at the bedroom with only 1 room, the cannon fodder female supporting character directly transforms into a wild-style famous painting, The Crying Woman. Even Picasso would shout, "Bravo!" And the Duke is a stripping maniac. The first thing he does upon entering the room is take off his clothes, revealing washboard-like 8-pack abs. The pure cannon fodder female supporting character has never seen such a sensual scene. She obediently lies on the sofa, honestly being a wooden person. Her body is honest, but her mind becomes active. She's already imagining herself and the Duke in the same bed. The more she thinks, the redder her face gets. Who knows what explicit action she's imagining? She lets out a scream. The Duke turns his head in annoyance. "Scream again, and I'll eat you up." The cannon fodder girl immediately apologizes, "Sorry, I'll turn my head away." Hearing the rustling sound of clothes being taken off, her face turns as red as a ripe apple. This really makes this foodie's head hurt. I'd rather go back to the princess's room and be locked up, treated like a maid. Despite her complaints, she still can't help but peek at the Duke. This lean body, perfect abs, if turned into beef jerky, it must be very chewy. The foodie's instinctive gaze causes the Duke to turn his head again. Frightened, she quickly turns away, pretending to whistle to ease the awkwardness. After the Duke finishes changing clothes, she turns back. I must say the Duke in clothes is quite a handsome man. But seeing the Duke still glaring at her fiercely, okay, this foodie takes back what she just said. However, is the Duke planning to sleep with his sword? She curiously asks, "Can you sleep like that?" The Duke, hugging his sword, says casually, "I rarely sleep at night. Even if I do sleep, I can't sleep well because of the curse." This makes the cannon fodder female supporting character even more curious. Does a curse that prevents people from tasting food really exist? This second male lead has a very strange temper. He keeps asking people if they're witches, then throws them in the dungeon to cook for him. But the cannon fodder female supporting character can understand. Since the Duke was cursed by a witch, eating any food tastes like eating tree bark, drinking soup is like drinking bathwater. It's so frustrating he wants to end himself and start over. Just as the cannon fodder female supporting character was about to show some concern, the second male lead brandishes his sword, warning the cannon fodder female supporting character, "If you try anything while I'm sleeping, I'll kill you." Those who scroll past this video without leaving a free likes, I'll take your life too. The cannon fodder female supporting character is completely stunned. I'm really speechless. Damn it, what can this foodie do? Starve you to death with delicious food, or perform a dance from my hometown for you? She decisively ignores this neurotic second male lead, wraps herself tightly in her blanket, and goes to sleep. Whatever, who cares? Seeing the little cook behaving herself, the second male lead puts away his sword and prepares to rest too. Time slowly passes, but the cannon fodder female supporting character just can't fall asleep. She thinks about how she just arrived and this country was conquered. She might be sent to scrub toilets, or to repair city walls or something. The foodie's life ending so poorly, but after all the ups and downs, she unexpectedly became the domineering second male lead's exclusive little cook. Her little life is even better than the innocent girl female leads. Not only was she not sent to do hard labor, but she's even sleeping on a Simmons big sofa. She wanted to be a salted fish, eating, sleeping, and making gourmet food. After all, she's cannon fodder, not the female lead. Who would have thought that the magical earth cuisine could let the cursed second male lead taste food? So if that salted fish makes a bit more effort and flips over, it's still a salted fish. No, forget it. Maybe she can change her fate of being killed. Lost in these thoughts, she drifts off to sleep. She sees her godmother, the only relative who was kind to her in this world. She tightly hugs her godmother, crying pitifully like a child who's found parental support. Sobbing, she complains, "I met a very, very bad person. Because he can't taste food when he eats, he makes me cook for him. He even says I'm his exclusive little cook. Mom, I'm so wronged." Overcome with emotion, she starts nuzzling against her godmother's chest. Suddenly she feels something's not right with the texture. Did godmother work out her chest muscles? Why is it so hard? She opens her eyes and finds herself in the second male lead's arms. The second male lead's shirt is covered in her drool and tears. She's lying in the same bed as the second male lead. The legendary innocent and naive female lead turns out to be myself. Embarrassed enough to dig a 3-bedroom apartment with her toes. Forget it, too small. Dig a 4-bedroom apartment. This foodie wants to keep a pet too. The second male lead, with a stiff zombie face, recounts the whole process without missing a word. "You climbed up very familiarly, then roughly pinned me down, trapping me beneath you, and took several bites of my robust chest muscles, with tears and..." Wait, before he could finish, the cannon fodder female supporting character's face was already as red as boiling water. Then she started hitting high soprano notes. She wants to stop the Duke from saying the following details. It's time to move to another planet. She's a cannon fodder female supporting character who just wants to eat and wait for death, but accidentally stole the naive and innocent female lead scenes. Not only does she cook for the second male lead, but she also accidentally climbed into the second male lead's bed. Although she always warns herself to stay away from the female lead's harem, when she's asleep, she seems to have another personality. The scenes she didn't dare to look at in the second male lead's room during the day, she sees enough of at night when asleep. Moreover, her small body hides great strength. One hand can pin down the fierce Duke with 8-pack abs. Even King Kong would call her big sister. Her expression also becomes very cold, but she retains the emotions from her dream, acting coquettishly in the second male lead's arms, finding a place for her tears of grievance. When she wakes up, everything is forgotten again. The second male lead draws his sword. Like and subscribe now or you'll end up like the little foodie. But these plot points are like Zhu Beiji eating ginseng fruit to her, not fully experienced. While unable to remember, she still feels afraid. The second male lead chuckles softly. "Now you know to be afraid? When you pinned me down with one hand telling me not to move, I couldn't see any fear in you." The second male lead wants to scare her, picking up his sword. "Surely you know the consequences of getting handsy with me?" The cannon fodder female supporting character is even more scared. Although dying early or late means death either way, isn't dying now a bit hasty? Moreover, she still has so much delicious food to eat. She absolutely can't die. She decisively chooses to be a little bootlicker, praising him to high heaven. The great Duke is magnanimous. "This lowly one was blind to offend you. Please spare my life." The second male lead draws his sword. This level of sincerity isn't enough, you know. The cannon fodder female supporting character is very sensible. As a bootlicker, you need to have some insight. One look and it's clear the great Duke is hungry. "I'll go cook right now." Then she jumps off the bed. The survival instinct makes her jump reach an astonishing 3.14926 meters. Clearly, PE was taught by the math teacher. In the kitchen, thinking back to what she did last night, it's really outrageous. She pats her own face to wake herself up a bit. She really admires her own courage. In that situation, she could still sleep so soundly. Making a foodie wait for delicious food is very torturous. The little foodie was just a bit slow in cooking for the Duke. The Duke has already started polishing his sword. If you don't let the Duke eat, then he'll eat the cook. The little foodie has to push the cart at lightning speed, wishing she had 8 legs to run with. Finally, she delivers the food to the Duke, saving her little life once again. But the Duke, holding the plate, suddenly says, "Bring another set of tableware. Sit down." The foodie widens her eyes, as if she's misheard. "What am I sitting down for?" The Duke looks displeased. "Are you questioning me?" Seeing the Duke flip his attitude like flipping a book, the foodie obediently sits down, not daring to speak again. But in her heart, she complains that this table isn't long enough. If only it were as long as from Earth to the moon. The two start to enjoy the meal. Before the foodie has even picked up her chopsticks, the Duke has already started devouring the food. This confuses the foodie. Isn't she supposed to taste test for poison anymore? The Duke's gaze falls on the distracted foodie, as if asking why she's not eating. The foodie gives a startled jolt. She obediently starts eating. Although a foodie fears death, what she fears most is not being able to eat delicious food before dying. Now that she has the chance to die as a full ghost, let's eat. The foodie cuts a piece of meat and puts it in her mouth. OMG, the soft and springy texture, bursting like a juicy fruit. One bite, and the taste buds are immersed in juices. The meat's fragrance is filled with the sweet and sour of ripe tomatoes. The fully blended flavors take the delicious food to another level. One bite makes her jaw drop in delight. Do you understand a foodie's happiness? After enjoying the carefully cooked meat, she takes a big bite of the soft potato salad. The sandy texture carries a hint of freshness. Her little cheeks are working non-stop. How can it be so delicious? While eating, she sneaks a glance at the Duke. Goodness, his plate is already empty. She, as a foodie, can't even compare. She made enough for 5 people, afraid he wouldn't have enough. But it was still instantly devoured. Was the Duke a starving ghost in his past life? He eats like he's drinking water. After eating his fill, the Duke becomes much kinder. Even his movements become elegant, even somewhat dazzling. But what makes the little foodie cry tears of joy isn't the Duke's beauty, but that she can live another day. If she serves this domineering Duke well, she can live comfortably. But the next second, the Duke's eyes change. I should have cut off your arm for last night's incident. But then you wouldn't be able to cook. For the sake of delicious food, I'll let you off this time. The foodie instantly bows 90 degrees. Another crisis averted. But the Duke suddenly snaps his fingers, as if dissatisfied with something about her. The surrounding maids swarm in, grabbing the little foodie. Luana was instantly grabbed by several servants. What are you doing? Didn't you say last night that you wouldn't hold it against me? Legion gave her a cold look. Luana looked panic-stricken. What's going on? Why does he look so disdainful? Did I just make a fool of myself? Was all the cooking I did recently for nothing? Legion ignored her and ordered the servants to take her away. Luana struggled. Wait. Duke, what's happening? The door slammed shut. Luana was taken to the bathroom where servants were washing her. Are you preparing me for water torture? The maid looked surprised. What are you talking about? You must have misunderstood. The Duke only ordered us to give you a bath and change you into clean clothes. Another maid chimed in, that's right. Even if it's the Duke, he wouldn't harm someone he spent the night with. Hearing, spent the night, Luana bristled. What? That's the misunderstanding. Just she tried to explain. A maid grabbed her hand. Let me clean your nails. The castle echoed with the girl's wails. Why won't anyone listen to me? It's just a misunderstanding. Yesterday she was a princess of the kingdom. Today, with a change of outfit, she became a high-ranking maid. Legion saw her and remarked, now you look somewhat presentable. Although your hands are clean, you're still unkempt overall. Hearing the Duke's sarcastic comments, Luana fumed internally. You didn't mind my dirtiness when you ate the food I made. She glanced at herself in the mirror. I've never worn such elegant clothes before. In the side palace, I wore clothes only slightly better than the maids. He's given me beautiful clothes. I should thank him to be polite, right? But when she turned to see Legion's handsome face, she became too nervous to speak. What's wrong, little one? No, nothing. I just wanted to thank you. Before she could finish, Legion reached out his hand. Luana thought he was going to take advantage of her, nervously closed her eyes and backed away. But the next moment, Legion just took a leaf off her head. Luana's face turned red. Oh, he was just helping me remove a leaf. As they spoke, a guard approached. Duke, the princess in the dungeon requests to see you. Hearing dungeon, Luana was startled. Could it be my sister Ingrid? They arrived at the prison. Luana felt reluctant internally. I don't want to come back. Why bring me here? Legion coldly inquired. I heard you wanted to see me. What are you plotting? Faced with his contempt, Ingrid exploded in anger. Why did you imprison me? Throwing me in jail without an audience, are you trying to isolate me? I don't know what you're scheming, but even if you imprison me, I won't submit. After listening to her, Legion calmly said, go on. The two princesses were speechless at his response. Ingrid felt like she was punching a pillow. Is that all? Are you done? Next time, just tell a maid if you're going to waste my time like this. I'm no time for games with you, he said and turned to leave. Luana hurriedly followed, but after a few steps, the elder princess called out her name. Luana, are you alright? The Duke hasn't done anything to you, has he? Hearing her concern, Luana felt a warmth in her heart. She's in prison but still thinks of me. How kind-hearted. Just as she was about to say something, Legion barked from behind. What are you dawdling for? Come here quickly. Luana nervously replied, okay, coming. I'm sorry, sister. Please hang in there a little longer. I'll find a way to save you. She turned and ran outside, leaving Ingrid glaring at her with hatred. Hang in there? I've forgotten what the outside world looks like. After Luana caught up, Legion growled fiercely. You seem to have forgotten that you are still a prisoner? Yes. Duke, I'm sorry. Legion handed her an oil lamp. Then they walked out of the prison. As they walked, Luana heard wailing from the prison. The sound was terribly miserable. She remembered the imprisoned nobility. Have meals been provided to the royal prisoners? Legion coldly replied, they're all going to die anyway, is there any need for food? Luana cursed internally, how can someone be so heartless and cold-blooded? Is there no chance for redemption? After all, these are human lives. They're not worth it. Then may I ask? Before she could finish, Legion roared impatiently, why do you have so many questions? After being scolded, Luana had to change the subject. I was wondering if you're hungry? Should I prepare lunch? Would fried chicken and beer go well together? To ensure all the nobility could eat, Luana decided to use her special skills, fried chicken with beer. In the castle, Luana sat in the kitchen, muttering to herself. I must do well this time, recalling the condition she discussed with the Duke in the prison yesterday. If you like the lunch I make this time, you must agree to my request to provide meals for all the nobility. But after saying it, seeing his serious expression, Luana felt a bit nervous. Was I too hasty? Will he imprison me like my sister? Legion saw her spacing out and coldly asked, why? Why did you propose that condition to me? The nobility has been conquered. Whether they starve to death or lose their heads, the result is the same. Why give them food? I heard you were a neglected, abandoned princess. They never cared for you. Why help them? Hearing this, Luana felt a bit dejected. It's true that I was abandoned in the side palace since childhood, ignored by everyone. I've never met my sisters and barely know my father, but that has nothing to do with who they are. How miserable it is to be hungry. Besides, I have a life motto. Even if I lose my head tomorrow, I want to die with a full stomach. I'm not asking you to provide fancy meals. Just enough to fill their stomachs is fine. Legion was stunned, thinking, could she be an idiot? He turned and said, I accept your proposal. However, I must say today's lunch is delicious for it to count. Luana stood up abruptly. All right, it's settled then. I'll definitely make the Duke see me in a new light with this dish. After preparing the necessary ingredients, she first washed the chicken and cut it into appropriate sizes. She soaked it in milk to prevent sticking and remove any odors. Then she sprinkled salt and pepper, added cooking wine and garlic for seasoning. Finally, she coated it with frying powder. The next step was crucial. She poured oil into the pan. Oil was precious in this world, so she couldn't use too much at once. But in the royal kitchen, she could use it freely. She thoroughly coated each piece of chicken with batter. Luana chanted a spell, be sure to fry until crispy. In the room, Legion looked at letters from the Empire. The affairs here were almost settled. He would soon set off to return to the Empire, and had to choose some prisoners to take back. Thinking of what happened in the prison earlier, Legion had a headache. Why did I accept such a ridiculous condition? If it were anyone else, I would have cut out their tongue long ago. Although that princess's pitiful look was amusing, I shouldn't have agreed so easily. It must be because of the food. That witch proposed a condition to me first, and I was curious about what dish she could make, so I agreed. It's just a small trick. Even if I find it delicious, I won't provide food for those people. The abandoned princess once again conquered the Duke with her cooking. Luana happily pushed the food cart in. Duke, lunch is ready. Today's menu is fragrant fried chicken, potatoes, and beer. Legion asked puzzlingly, can fried chicken go with beer? Luana replied, yes, the combination of fried chicken and beer is perfect. The chicken marinated in secret spices, fried twice, is very crispy. Legion looked at her dirty appearance and thought, I just changed her clothes, and she's dirty again. It shows she works very seriously. I don't drink beer. Get me some red wine. Don't be like that, please try it first. While it's still hot, quickly. Legion picked up a knife and fork. He stabbed a piece of chicken and put it in his mouth. Then he picked up the beer. Seeing him eat with no expression, Luana felt anxious. What's going on? Why isn't he saying anything? Legion lifted the beer and drank it in big gulps. The aroma of wheat instantly filled his mouth. It was as if he was in a golden wheat field. This taste paired with fried chicken was incredible. It went straight to his head. Soon, a whole chicken was eaten. Tell me name. Luana thought, he's finally speaking. This dish is called fried chicken. Legion coldly said, I'm asking what your name is. Haha, so that's it. My name is Luana. You should know my surname, right? Legion replied, I've noted it down. Guard Lucade brought food to the prison. Voices from inside the prison could be heard in the corridor. Do you think the Duke is interested in the abandoned princess? She even survived entering his bedroom. Not only that, he's keeping that princess by his side to serve him. All the other princesses have been locked up, even Ingrid couldn't escape. It's really puzzling. By rights, the eldest princess should be the one by his side, not that abandoned princess. Hearing them badmouth Luana, Lucade felt annoyed. He opened the door and threw the food inside. The two were startled. The blonde old man was the former king. The king asked, what is this? Lucade said irritably, from today on, you'll get 2 meals a day. Be grateful for the Duke's mercy. The king muttered, I thought he was going to starve us to death. Why suddenly provide food? The queen beside him showed a strange smile. The Duke kept the abandoned princess by his side to serve him. Maybe that child is helping us. You mean the child living in the side palace? Yes, perhaps we can still use her. Luana was delighted to hear that the Duke was sending food to the nobility in the palace. Is what you're saying true? Stop asking. Can't you understand? So many questions every day. Luana covered her mouth happily. I didn't expect him to keep his word. He never said whether it was good or not. I thought the plan had failed. But now that I think about it, could it be that he's shy to say it? Anyway, no matter what, Sister Ingrid won't have to go hungry now. Seeing the Duke eating non-stop, Luana asked, you seem to really like fried chicken? You ate it for lunch and now for dinner too. Hearing this, Legion's face darkened. Are you complaining? Luana hurriedly explained, no. Fried chicken is delicious, but there are even more delicious ways to eat it. Legion immediately became interested. How? Of course, it's sauce-coated fried chicken. Do you prefer plain fried chicken or sauce-coated fried chicken? Luana proposed a new way of making fried chicken. The Duke immediately became interested. Sauce-coated fried chicken, is it just one more step than this? That's right. There's soy sauce fried chicken, honey mustard fried chicken, and cream and green onion fried chicken. They're all delicious. Hearing this, Legion's face darkened. If there are so many varieties, why did you only make me the most basic one? Luana tried to calm him, don't be angry. Because I can't make them now. Why? Can't you do it? Luana held up her fingers. I need to make a special sauce but I don't have enough funds. Also, I've never succeeded before and need to experiment repeatedly. I have neither the budget nor the time. Hearing this, Legion ordered his subordinate, little Luo, go take care of it. He then threw a bag of gold coins. Is this enough? Never having seen so much money before, Luana was excited. It's enough, more than enough. I take back what I thought about him before. He's clearly a money tree. If you need money to make dishes, you can use it freely. But if you have other thoughts, I wouldn't dare. I'll go to the kitchen first to check the ingredients. I'll buy any missing ingredients with the money. With that, she ran out. Duke Legion, I'll make you the most delicious sauce-coated fried chicken. This one looked back and smile enchanted the Duke. She called me Duke Legion. It seems to be the first time she's called my name. Luana, happy to have received funding, was so excited she was spinning in circles. Finally, I have a chance to show my skills. When I go back, I'll first marinate the chili sauce, then make the soybean paste. Luana was happily walking towards the kitchen, when suddenly a person in black appeared in front of her and they collided. Luana rubbed her head while bowing to apologize. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going and bumped into you. The person in black grabbed her hand. So you were here? Luana pointed at herself and asked, do you know me? The person in black replied, of course, how could I not know you? You're His Majesty's most beloved little princess. Luana thought, what is this person talking about? The person in black coughed and began to introduce himself. I am His Majesty's maid. My name is Layla. Time is short, so let's get to the point. His Majesty ordered me to relay a message to you. The next morning, Luana had prepared breakfast early. Today's menu was half-boiled eggs with toast, tomato salad, and yogurt. Legion was eating with relish. Seeing Luana unusually quiet today, he decided to give her something to do. Hey! Is this all the food? At the mention of cooking, Luana immediately became enthusiastic. How could it be? I've already mastered your appetite. These are all for you, Duke Legion. Did you just call me Legion? Luana looked panicked. No? I don't think so. Did I allow you to call me by name? Did I just call you that? I didn't notice at all. Haha, actually I was just worried you might be bored. You asked my name before. I thought we had become closer, so I unconsciously called you that. Legion coldly said, I don't care what you call me. Just bring me the food first. After finishing the meal, Luana pushed the cart out. It's unbelievable. I called him by name, and he didn't angry it. Could it be because of the food I made? But looking at it now, he has indeed become more amiable. Luana was lost in thought. Suddenly someone called out to her. Don't be afraid, it's me. Did you add what I gave you to the Duke's food? Luana replied, I was just about to say. At that moment, the voice of guard Ro Yun suddenly came from behind. Luana was startled. The king's maid also disappeared in a flash. Ro Yun was puzzled. How strange. I clearly saw a maid standing here, but she disappeared when I came over. Luana quickly changed the subject. Do you need something from me? Ro Yun replied, the Duke ordered fried chicken for dinner. Luana responded, no problem, I'll go prepare it right away. The evil queen had another wicked idea. She wanted to use the abandoned princess to get rid of the Duke. Luana took out the bottle the person in black had given her from her pocket. It was labeled, put this in the Duke's food. She was suddenly alarmed. This bottle must contain poison. Why suddenly? Even if they had an ounce of conscience, they wouldn't make me do such a thing. They never cared about me before, but now they remember I'm a princess. They even want me to poison someone. How could I interfere with food? I'm not interested in any of this at all. I must throw it away. If this comes to light, I'll surely lose my head. No one set a good example as parents. I can't let an important character die because of them. When the opportunity arises, I'll throw it out the window or into water. Come on, Luana. Protecting the Duke is up to you now. However, by nightfall she still hadn't been able to dispose of the poison vial. What should I do? Knights were watching in the dining room, and maids pestered me elsewhere. I had no chance to throw the bottle away. Never mind, I'll think about it later. I should hide it well. If she discovers it, my precious head might have to move. Legion saw she wasn't asleep and called out to her. Hey, get up and talk to me. Luana was startled. You tremble every time I call you. How are you so bold when you gave me the cheese beef stick? Luana was too nervous to speak. Why is he suddenly calling me? When this official business is done, I'm going to take you back to the Empire as a captive. But don't misunderstand. I just want to use you to lure out the witch. After you've met the Emperor, you can come live at my mansion. So don't look at me like I'm going to eat you. But Luana was still a bit scared after hearing this. Is he trying to get along with me, or is he scolding me to change my bad habits? Legion saw she didn't react. He strode over and asked, did you hear me? Luana sensed he was slowly approaching and thought, don't come over here. She nervously turned her head and replied, I heard you. Seeing her perfunctory response, Legion grabbed the blanket and said, when answering someone's question, you should look them in the eye. Saying this, he yanked the blanket away. Luana was a bit flustered. Unexpectedly, the next moment, the Duke pulled her along with the blanket. TCH, so you wanted to take advantage of me? Luana nervously replied, that's not it. I wanted to look back but got tangled in the blanket. As they were talking, the medicine bottle rolled off the sofa. Luana was thunderstruck. Oh no. It's over now. If he discovers this, I will be killed. She wanted to grab it but Legion was quicker. Looking at the liquid in the bottle, Legion coldly asked, is this poison? After spending a long time together, the Duke had developed feelings for the girl. But when he saw this vial of poison, he realized his love was worthless. Legion examined the vial of liquid, asking, is this poison? Hearing his question, Luana nervously replied, I don't know. Let me explain. Before she could finish, Legion burst out laughing. It fell out of your pocket and you don't know what it is? Hiding deadly poison, and I still wanted to get along with you. How laughable. A witch is a witch. You're all the same. Saying this, he opened the cap and drank it all in one gulp. Luana was dumbfounded by his crazy behavior. She then snatched the bottle away and shouted, what are you doing? But the bottle was already empty. Luana panicked. You knew it was poison and still drank it? Too bad, this little poison can't kill me, I'm immune to most poisons. Luana grabbed his collar and shouted, then why did you just casually take poison? And you wouldn't even listen to me. Why do you carelessly harm your own body? As the two were arguing, a guard nervously pushed open the door and asked, Your Highness, what happened? I just heard loud noises. But seeing the two in an intimate position, he stood there awkwardly. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I hope you enjoy your time together. Excuse me. With that, he closed the door with a bang. What? What good time? At this moment, Luana also came to her senses. Was I too fierce just now? I'm sorry. I was too impulsive earlier. Legion suddenly felt a wave of heat. That bottle wasn't poison. Get out now. Don't ask why. I'll explain to you slowly later. With the sound of a door closing, Luana was pushed out with a bewildered look. The guard teased, oh my, the scene was quite spectacular earlier. How come you're out so quickly? It's not what you think. Mind your own business. As they spoke, Lucade walked out from the room. The Duke ordered me to prepare a separate room for you. Follow me. Hearing this, the guard laughed and said, you're lucky. You don't have to sleep in the corridor anymore. Haha. Seeing him mock Luana, Lucade gave him a big eye roll. Inside the Duke's room, Legion was breathing heavily. The heat all over his body made him uneasy. It turned out to be a love potion, and a highly refined, pure one at that. That stupid princess couldn't possibly have such a thing. Humph, I didn't care about the rumors outside about me and the princess, but for those who drugged me, it means something different. After pondering, he snapped his fingers. A person in black appeared. Legion threw the empty vial over and instructed, investigate the origin of this vial for me. The person in black replied, yes, master. Then disappeared without a trace. Although he had guessed who it was, he needed to confirm the truth. You were spared your lives but don't know how to cherish them. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. The king and queen were executed at dawn, and their bodies were hung at the city gate. Why so sudden? The guard smirked, don't you know why? Luana was stunned by his words. Recalling yesterday's earth-shattering scene made her cheeks flush. I don't know either. The situation became awkward. The guard asked, did you deliver that medicine to the Duke? Oh right, this breakfast is to be sent to the Duke. Seeing her slow reaction, the guard teasingly said, after all that commotion last night, you still have the mood to cook. Hearing his words, Luana was speechless. This person is really clueless. Do you need help? It might be inconvenient for you to see the Duke now. I can deliver it to his office. Luana thought, so he's sympathizing with me. The princess of a kingdom whose parents suddenly died. Indeed, it's not convenient to see Legion now. Then I'll trouble you. The guard immediately had his own little plan. Just thanking me with words? Luana immediately understood his hint. I'll go get you some food. Oh, thank you. Seeing his smug look, Luana thought, so that's what he was after. A while later, Luana finished cleaning the kitchen and started daydreaming. Why am I not sad that they were executed? It doesn't feel real and I'm not heartbroken. After all, they weren't my parents. They weren't good to me before. Compared to me, Sister Ingrid must be the most upset. Just because she refused someone she didn't like, her country was destroyed, and her sisters were imprisoned. With both parents dead, she must be in great pain now. Meanwhile, in the prison, Ingrid also received news of her parents' death. She clenched her fists in anger, silently vowing, Legion, I hate you. I will never forgive you in this life. In the office, the guard placed the food on the table. Your Highness, this is your breakfast for today. Legion glanced at it. Why is it you? Where is she? The guard replied, she asked me to bring it. Why didn't she come herself? The guard had a sudden idea and replied, she's washing beans in the kitchen. The atmosphere in the office was very tense. Oh my, I'm so nervous. Maybe I shouldn't have spoken for her. Just as he was on edge, Legion sighed and replied, forget it. Seeing that he wasn't pursuing the matter further, Royan quickly unveiled the food. Duke, this is today's dish. It's a stew with beef and tomatoes as the main ingredients, cooked with potatoes and carrots until tender. This is a stew. Yes, Your Grace. Getting confirmation, Legion fell into thought. Meat is usually roasted. Generally, stews require a lot of seasoning, but why does it seem like not much was used? Legion took a spoonful and put it in his mouth. The flavor instantly exploded in his mouth. The beef was tender yet chewy, the potatoes were smooth, and the carrots were sweet. Paired with the refreshing tomatoes, it was truly unique. Taking another sip of the bright soup, life became a little more satisfying. He never imagined eating could bring such enjoyment. About last night, should I give her an explanation? The guard saw he had finished eating. Very perceptively, he collected the pot. Your Grace, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Watching the guard leave, Legion fell into thought. Sending someone else to run errands while hiding in the kitchen herself. Is she bothered by last night? Or is she protesting my execution of her parents by avoiding me? Sigh, who told them to poison me? It's not like I was good to you. The imperial capital. A man in luxurious clothing stood among flowers, asking his attendant, did Legion execute the king and queen? The person beside him replied, yes, Your Majesty. Tell him to end his journey and return immediately. What about the person I want? Your Majesty, she's still alive. That's good news. Pass down the order. Start preparing to welcome our war hero. Luana was washing beans in the kitchen, muttering the recipe for soybean paste. It needs to be tossed for another 8 hours to ferment. Legion sneakily came to the kitchen. Luana was startled, causing water to splash everywhere. When did you come? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Are you here because you're not satisfied with the meal? Legion replied, no, I'm just not very satisfied with the person who delivered the meal today. Luana was about to apologize when he refused. I'll let you off this time. Go pack your luggage. We're setting off back to the Empire. Luana pointed at the nearby shelf and asked, can I take those foods as luggage? There's still some sauce and meat left. I don't want to waste it. Legion replied, whatever. Don't you need anything else besides food? Isn't food the most important thing? Hearing this, Legion pursed his lips. TCH, women are so shallow. The next day arrived in the blink of an eye. Ingrid was also following along. Luana was secretly delighted when she saw her. Sister Ingrid is here too. Now I won't be lonely when I get to the Empire. But the guards were so strict that she couldn't get close. The Duke kept urging from the side, when will the food be ready? Luana replied, it'll be ready soon. Today's menu is cheese meat pie, whole wheat bread with flour sauce, and a cup of warm corn juice to soothe the stomach. Seeing that today's food was a bit simple, Luana asked, is it really okay to eat just this? Haven't I told you? Food you haven't touched is worse than dirt. May I ask, after we return to the Empire, will I be going to your mansion, Duke? Legion coldly replied, you'll come with me to meet His Majesty. Luana asked, do I have to go too? Of course. You're my war trophy. I must report to His Majesty. Hearing this, Luana felt a bit dejected. I thought I could act separately from him. Seeing her spacing out, Legion warned, you are not allowed to be captivated by His Majesty. Luana pointed at herself. Are you saying I'll be infatuated with His Majesty? Why would I be infatuated with His Majesty? Do I look that casual? Whether you're casual or not, it's all the same to His Majesty. I'm telling you what to do, so just do it. If you don't fall for His Majesty, I'll reward you with something nice. Soon, the group arrived at the Empire. At this time, the streets were filled with cheers for the Duke's return. Long live the Empire. Welcome home, hero. The scene was magnificent, prompting the Emperor to sigh, it's so lively. It seems I'm not the only one waiting for you. You must be tired from the journey. Welcome to the Empire. Just because the girl refused to marry him, the Emperor ordered the conquest of her country. Ingrid was brought back to the Empire as a captive. The long-awaited Emperor revealed an evil smile. Welcome to the Empire. Ingrid angrily retorted, how dare you say such words? You invaded my ancestral land, you shameless scoundrel. The Emperor let out a cold laugh. If you had obediently agreed to the marriage alliance, this wouldn't have happened, would it? Ingrid was so angry she couldn't speak. Luana, experiencing such a scene for the first time, was a bit excited. She always thought Ingrid was the kind of elegant and graceful woman, but didn't expect her to be so intimidating. Seeing Ingrid silent, the Emperor turned to look at Legion. You did very well on this expedition. I'm very pleased. However, who is this girl? Luana nervously gripped her skirt. Legion explained, before I set out, Your Majesty made me a promise. You said I could choose anything I wanted within the kingdom. The Emperor stroked his chin with an intriguing expression. So you want her? Alright, I agree, but I'm a bit curious about what method you used to make this dull fellow take notice of you. Luana was at a loss for words, not knowing how to answer. In the imperial kitchen, a group of people were discussing animatedly. Everyone was curious about this new little girl. Among these professional imperial chefs, Luana seemed out of place. Legion was displeased seeing his little maid assigned to cook. The Emperor came over to tease, I ordered the Duke's woman to cook. Are you dissatisfied? Legion hurriedly explained, we don't have that kind of relationship. But the Emperor felt things weren't so simple. It's strange. You can't taste flavors. Why would you bring back a princess who can only cook? Because of the food. I can taste the flavor of the dishes she cooks. Hearing this, the Emperor fell into thought. Haha, I said you seemed different from before. So you've gained weight, you were too thin before, making it look like our great empire couldn't afford to feed you. Now you look much better. Since I agreed to the knight's request, I'll let you take that princess away as promised. Legion bowed and replied, I'm deeply grateful. But the Emperor said, don't thank me yet. You should bring her to play often in the future. Hearing this, Legion's face changed instantly. No, that's too dangerous. In the kitchen, the group was chattering non-stop. Luana stared blankly at the ingredients in her hands. I never thought that in my lifetime, I'd get to cook in the Imperial Palace. It's so exciting. Luana turned to look behind her. The ingredients here are all-encompassing. No need to worry about shortages. The oven is big enough to fit a person. I can finally show my skills. After deciding what to make, she began selecting ingredients. In this era, meat is usually roasted or steamed. Even if the Emperor has tasted all sorts of delicacies, he must like fried food. Luana was very satisfied with the basket full of ingredients. But thinking that Legion had already eaten it, she decided to try something new. The princess was cooking in the Imperial Palace for the first time. This time she was prepared to show her skills. First, she cut the meat into appropriate-sized chunks. Then she seasoned it with pepper, salt, added garlic, and mixed in some cooking wine. She coated the meat with flour mixed with cold water and beer, adding a bit of oil to make a batter. While waiting for the meat to marinate, she prepared a sauce. She lightly fried the ingredients in oil, added sugar and lemon juice for flavor, and finally thickened it with cornstarch. After finishing, she handed the sauce to an assistant nearby. Please help me cool this down. Next came the most important step, evenly coating the meat with batter. She then dropped them one by one into hot oil to fry. This action drew quite a crowd of onlookers, all remarking on how unusual this cooking method was. Soon, a whole pot of meat was fried to perfection. Luana took one piece and tasted it. Although it lacks soy sauce and misses some flavors, it's already excellent. The Duke has a big appetite, so she'd give him a large portion. A small amount would suffice for the Emperor. After everything was prepared, Luana thanked the assistant from earlier. I'm sorry for barging in to cook so suddenly. I'll come back to clean this up later. I have to go now. The door creaked open from the outside. The Emperor jokingly said, I didn't expect you to be so quick. Luana explained, the dishes I made this time didn't take much time. Fortunately, I had help from the chef. Please eat before it gets cold. Fried dishes are best enjoyed while hot. Looking at the plates in front of the two, Luana was suddenly thunderstruck, thinking, oh no, I put the plates in the wrong positions. That small portion isn't even enough to fill the Duke's teeth. The Emperor said he had never seen such food before, asking, you call this fried food? Luana replied, yes, this dish is called sweet and sour pork. The pork is fried in hot oil until golden and then taken out. After hearing this, the Emperor kept repeating, sweet and sour pork, it sounds quite novel. Legion very sensibly picked up a fork and started tasting. Your Majesty, there's no poison in the food, and Luana looked dissatisfied on the side. I said I wouldn't tamper with the food. Then what's this? This is the sauce for dipping the sweet and sour pork. If you don't like the crispy texture and prefer a softer mouthfeel, you can dip it in some sauce. Hearing this, the Emperor suddenly became interested. He picked up a piece of meat, covered it in sauce, and put it in his mouth. He was stunned by the taste. This is delicious. Princess, you should come to the palace to play more often. Hearing this, Luana also breathed a sigh of relief. You scared me to death. I thought your Majesty didn't like it. Legion watched the two going back and forth, suddenly feeling very jealous. Your Majesty, that's mine. These words startled Luana even more. Was he asking for it so directly? The Emperor looked at the huge portion of sweet and sour pork in front of him and asked, you mean this portion is yours? Yes, the plates were put in the wrong positions. Hearing this, the Emperor felt a bit annoyed. Thinking of the chubby Legion, he suddenly burst into laughter. No wonder this portion is so big. Let's switch them back. The Duke saw that the Emperor's meal was more than his own, and suddenly felt very jealous. Your Majesty, that plate is mine. Hearing this, the Emperor felt a little upset. He deliberately teased, oh, so that's how it is. No wonder this portion is so big. I thought the princess was trying to please me in this way. Hearing this, Luana broke out in a cold sweat. Haha, it's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Princess, could you make some more? I really like this delicious dish, but my plate was taken away. Luana was stunned for a moment before replying, yes, I'll go make another pot right away. Seeing her acting like a fawning dog, Legion suddenly felt very jealous. Are you sure you want to make another pot? On the way back to the city, Luana sat in the carriage and couldn't help but sigh, oh my, I didn't expect His Majesty to be so graceful. And he really likes sweet and sour pork. It doesn't seem so scary after all. Legion heard her praising another man and felt very unhappy. Look at your unsophisticated appearance. Have you already been captivated? Luana nervously replied, what are you talking about? I haven't. Recalling what Legion said before returning to the Empire, Luana fell into deep thought. The male protagonist's halo is strong, but if we have to say who's more handsome between the two, the Duke is not bad either. Legion saw her in a daze and asked again, really not captivated? Luana shyly replied, really not. Compared to His Majesty, I prefer your style. Hearing her words, Legion was stunned for a moment. TSK, your taste is quite peculiar. Is it because you're a witch? Hearing this, Luana angrily protested, really, don't connect everything to witches. Will you lose a piece of flesh by agreeing with someone? In the palace, the Emperor recalled his recent conversation with Legion. Could the princess be related to the curse on you? Legion replied, since you've already figured it out, I won't hide it anymore. She claims to be an apprentice witch. She doesn't know about the curse on me, so I plan to keep her by my side to gather information. So, Your Majesty, please think twice. Hearing this, the Emperor smiled mischievously. Ha ha ha, so that's how it is. I am indeed interested in witches, but I understand the principle of not stealing someone else's love. However, do you really have no relationship at all? Hearing the Emperor's words, Legion fell into deep thought. We have no relationship at all. Thinking of this, the Emperor burst into laughter. Since ancient times, only delicious food can tame the beast. There will be an interesting show to watch for a while. At the Duke's residence, Luana got off the carriage and couldn't help but exclaim, you live here? It's too luxurious. Although I used to live in an abandoned palace, it was at least a national palace. I didn't expect this place to be more magnificent. After getting off the carriage, Legion walked straight to another place. Luana asked, where are you going? Legion coldly replied, mind your own business. Luana was so angry she pouted, humph. How rude. I don't even want to care. At this moment, an old man came over and politely said, "Please follow me, I'll take you inside." This princess is too lucky. After the kingdom was destroyed, she was unexpectedly taken back and kept by the enemy duke. "Miss Luana, this is your room. The maid will start work tomorrow. If you need anything today, just tell me." At this moment, Luana was already amazed. She had always lived in an abandoned cold palace. This was the first time in her life she had stayed in such a luxurious room. "Grandpa Butler, thank you. You're so kind. No need to be polite, this is what I should do." After saying this, he stared at Luana carefully. Luana sensed something unusual and thought, why is he looking at me with such a kind expression? Just as she was about to open her mouth to ask, Kane spoke earnestly, "Although the Duke appears cold on the surface, he is kind-hearted. He's tolerant and generous to his own people, handsome, skilled in swordsmanship, caring, kind, and financially free." Hearing the butler's series of praises, Luana could hardly hold back and shouted loudly, "Stop, stop, stop. Well, I'm tired and want to rest." Only then did the butler realize he had said too much. "It's my fault for talking too much. Please rest well." "Excuse me." After the butler left, Luana stood there with a headache. "Oh, no, no. I really don't have any relationship with him." Exhausted, she fell straight onto the bed. In the novel, Legion is the male partner who loves Ingrid's sister, and I'm just a victim of accidental events. So what if he's handsome and skilled in swordsmanship? He might kill me one day when he's in a bad mood. I'm so tired today, I need a good rest. Saying this, she fell into dreamland. When she woke up again, it was already dark. What time is it now? How did I sleep for so long? Just as she was about to get up, her stomach growled uncontrollably. "Ah, I'm so hungry. No, I can't let my little tummy suffer with me. I have to fill it up." So she peeked into the kitchen. Good, no one's here. Now I can show off my skills. She came to the cupboard to look for ingredients. Don't make it too complicated. I'll just use the available ingredients to make something simple. First, cut the round onion into small pieces and fry them in the pan to bring out the sweetness of the onion. Then add the source of life, put in torn bread crumbs, and cook over medium heat. After cooking until soft, pour in milk. Finally, season with salt and pepper. This way, a big bowl of milk bread soup is done. Haha, who can resist a fragrant late-night snack? It's simply too delicious. At this moment, she suddenly heard a voice from behind coldly asking, "Who's there?" After waiting for a while with no response, Luana decided to take the delicious food outside to enjoy. She walked while trembling. "Luana, don't be afraid." Walking to the bench and sitting down, looking at the fragrant food in her arms, her fear also lessened a bit. At this time, she heard footsteps slowly approaching. Looking up, it turned out to be Legion. "What are you doing here so late?" The girl was caught stealing a midnight snack, unfortunately discovered by the returning Duke. "Well, I woke up feeling a bit hungry, so I made something to eat myself, preparing to have a meal." "Why didn't you ask the servants to prepare food for you?" "I saw it was already very late and didn't want to disturb their sleep." Seeing Legion dressed so formally, she thought he must have just returned from the palace. "Lord Legion, have you had dinner?" "Not yet." "Then do you want to try the milk bread soup I made? Although it doesn't look impressive, it's very tasty. Didn't you make it for yourself to eat? I can go make more. Take this and eat it all up." Looking at the thick soup made from simple ingredients, Legion's memories from many years ago surged up. "What crappy steak, I won't eat it. It's really hard to swallow. Even poison is better than this." "Young master, please eat one more spoonful." Hearing this, Legion impatiently replied, "Go get me some liquid food, I'll drink it all at once." After the recollection, Legion looked at the liquid food in the spoon, finding it hard to swallow. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to try it. When it entered his mouth, it was indeed different. The aroma of milk mixed with the taste of bread was delicious. Seeing him putting one spoonful after another into his mouth, Luana said, "I didn't lie to you, haha. I thought he would refuse since the food isn't fancy." Recalling what he said when they first arrived in the Empire, plus the fact that he hadn't eaten dinner today, Luana suddenly felt a bit sorry for him. Can he really not eat other food? Then what can he use to find happiness? "Lord Legion, don't go hungry in the future. I'll make delicious food for you. I'll definitely fatten you up, you'll swell up." "You sound like a witch when you say that." "What? How do I sound like a witch? Don't witches fatten people up and then eat them?" Really, with so many delicious things in the world, why eat people? How about this, I'll make a deal with you. I'll fatten you up but I won't eat you. We have a deal, but you have to eat all the food I make, okay?" Seeing Luana's charming little appearance, Legion was enchanted. Coming back to his senses, he Tsundriel said, "Don't get handsy." Luana was at a loss after being gently rejected. Sorry." Seeing her a bit unhappy, Legion nervously said, "Well, before arriving in the Empire, we made a bet that if you weren't captivated by His Majesty, I'd give you something good. I'll give you the kitchen of this villa." Remember to make breakfast for me tomorrow morning. Hearing that he was giving her the kitchen, Luana became happy again. Okay, no problem. Thank you, Lord Legion. All their conversation was heard by the man behind the tree. The next day in the villa's kitchen, a man nervously asked, "What did you just say?" "Just that Lord Duke ordered that we don't need to prepare meals for him anymore." The man was Wei, the head chef of the Duke's mansion. Hearing the maid's words, Wei was thunderstruck. "Impossible, I just prepared suitable delicious food for Lord Duke today." The maid replied, "It's no use getting angry at me. Is Lord Duke planning to starve himself? I heard a newcomer is responsible for preparing meals for Lord Duke." The Duke, who had suffered from anorexia since childhood, was cured by the girl's exquisite culinary skills. Luana tasted the breakfast she had just made. "The taste is really good. The Duke will definitely like it. Now is the perfect time to send it over." At this moment, the butler walked in with a smile. "Oh, here you are. Why aren't you resting in your room?" Luana replied, "I was just about to look for you. May I ask where the Duke dines?" Hearing this, the butler looked a bit troubled. In another kitchen, the two kept arguing. "Head chef, let's go back. Although the kingdom has fallen, she is still a princess after all. Lord Duke is even protecting her. We should just do our job well." Wei pushed her away. "As the empire's top chef, I just want to prepare a good meal for Lord Duke. 5 years, a full 5 years. I've dedicated all my passion to preparing meals for the Duke. But every response was, it tastes bad, like garbage, like eating dirt. I worked so hard, yet was overwhelmed by mere love. I can't accept this. I must see for myself." The two pushed the food cart towards Legion's bedroom. The butler said, "Lord Duke is usually picky, especially about breakfast. After all, everyone has no appetite in the morning, right?" Hearing this, Luana looked confused. "Are you sure about that?" Strange, before coming back, he ate a lot for breakfast. When they arrived at the door, the butler knocked and said, "Lord Duke, it's Kane. The door isn't locked, come in." Hearing this, Luana happily ran in. "Lord Duke, your breakfast is here." Legion had just changed halfway, and the air instantly froze. Luana awkwardly turned around and covered her eyes. "Oh, I'm sorry." Legion pretended not to care. "All right, is this breakfast?" "Yes, I know you don't like to eat in the morning, but the princess prepared it carefully, so I brought her here." Legion sat on the sofa and said, "Bring it over." The butler stepped forward and lifted the lid. Today's menu is soufflé with bacon-wrapped sausage, side dish is manchego cheese salad, and the drink is hot milk tea. The butler looked at the table full of delicious food, unable to name them. Luana asked, "Can I turn around now?" "Hee, today's breakfast is called soufflé cake. I added egg white foam to the batter. It's soft, sweet, and fragrant." The butler replied, "The presentation is indeed unique and looks delicious, but Lord Duke can't eat anything in the morning." As soon as he finished speaking, Legion had already put a piece of cake in his mouth. The butler's jaw dropped instantly. Wow! Although he already knew their relationship was unusual, the Duke has gotten fatter than before this time. It must be the power of love. Looking at the two of them, they really are a perfect match. So suitable, too suitable. After finishing breakfast, Luana happily pushed the food cart out. "Go eat my soufflé cake quickly. It's not good when it gets cold." But when she came to the front and opened it, the plate was empty. Luana saw a man standing in front, thinking maybe he had stolen the food. May I ask who you are? Did you eat my soufflé cake?" The man suddenly turned around, giving Luana a fright. "Hello, I'm Wei, the head chef of the Duke's mansion." Luana tactically retreated a few steps. "Oh, so it's the head chef. Do you have something to ask me?" Wei replied, "I want to ask you for a favor. Because you became Lord Duke's exclusive chef, I don't agree. So I came to check. But I just heard Lord Duke say it was delicious. I'm not convinced. So I want to challenge you to a cooking competition." The head chef, dissatisfied with the Duke's arrangement, decided to challenge Luana to a culinary contest. Henry happened to pass by while the two were talking. Hearing them talk about a competition, he found it interesting. "You'll need judges anyway, how about including me and little Luo?" Meanwhile, in the office, Legion looked at his gradually rounding jawline. "Have I really gotten that much fatter? Looks like I need to eat less and pay more attention to my appearance." In the kitchen, both contestants were in the midst of an intense competition. Luana was busily preparing various ingredients. Seeing her serious demeanor, Wei gained a bit more respect for her. To ensure the fairness of the competition, Luana suggested finding another judge. Seeing her take it so seriously, Wei also prepared to bring out his best skills. Gat said in surprise, "Head chef, are you making Chateaubriand?" Luana asked, "What's that?" "It's a kind of high-end steak made with tenderloin. The head chef is very good at it." "Princess, what are you going to make?" Luana grinned, I have my own trick." Before long, the fragrant steak was served. The three couldn't help but exclaim, as expected of the head chef, "The steak smells so good." Hearing the praise, Wei showed a confident smile, thinking, "Of course, this is my specialty dish." Luana also turned into a foodie, staring at the steak on the table with her mouth watering. It must be delicious, right? Head chef, can I have a taste later? Wei was stunned for a moment. Sure. He thought, why is she reacting like this? Aren't we competitors? Then he asked, can I see the dish you made? Luana replied, sure. I made my signature dish. It's called Italian white sauce fried chicken. The judges were stunned, saying they had never seen such food before. Seeing them in a daze, Luana kept urging, eat quickly. It's not good when it gets cold. Wei was puzzled by this dish. Shouldn't Italian white sauce be on pasta? The fried chicken chunks are indeed unique. As he was thinking, Luana brought a plate of fried chicken in front of him. Smiling, she said, head chef, please taste it. Wei picked up a piece and put it in his mouth. It was too delicious. The fried chicken had a crispy texture, topped with the sweet and creamy Italian white sauce. The flavors blended perfectly. The spiciness of raw onions and the saltiness of pepper made the taste even richer. Henry ate happily, haha, it's really delicious. Now let's start voting. As soon as he finished speaking, Wei said dejectedly, no need, I lost. I never thought food could be made this way. It's my shallow knowledge that troubled the princess. I'm willing to accept any punishment. Hearing this, Luana suddenly felt pressured. Strictly speaking, this wasn't invented by me. Head chef, please get up quickly. I didn't mean to blame you, but can I ask you for a favor? Wei was a bit surprised. A favor, from me? Luana replied, yes, I don't understand imperial cuisine, and you've been the head chef at the Duke's mansion for so long, your skills are superb. Hearing this, Wei smiled. Sure. Hearing this, Wei smiled. Sure. I'll do my best to teach you. Henry, looking like he was just there for the show, said, TCH, no fun. I didn't even get to announce the result. Little Luo beside him said, that's not important. It's good nothing bad happened. The butler also breathed a sigh of relief. I thought something big was going to happen. I didn't expect Luana to resolve it on her own. That's really good. She'll definitely be able to manage the Duke's mansion well in the future. Seeing the girl he likes holding hands with someone else, Lord Duke felt a bit jealous. A month later, Luana stood by the large sauce jar, happily dancing around. Yes. It's successful. Seeing this, Wei came over and asked, did it work this time? Although we can't use it now, if we wait a bit longer, the sauce will definitely be ready. With sauce, I can make soy sauce. Indeed, with money and time, anything can be successful. After making soy sauce and soybean paste, I'll make chili sauce, then pickle kimchi. Then I can make kimchi pancakes and kimchi fried rice. Thinking of these delicious foods, Luana couldn't help but drool. Wei, thank you for helping me make the sauce. If it were just me, I definitely couldn't have done it. Wei blushed at this sudden hand-holding. Shyly, he replied, it's nothing, I didn't do much. Legion saw all of their actions. Seeing the two's intimate behavior, Legion felt a bit jealous. He coldly asked the butler, how old is the head chef this year? In his 20s. He's young but his culinary skills are exquisite, that's why he was hired by the Duke's mansion. Oh, I think there was something like that. Rumor has it he was called a genius, so I hired him back to the mansion with a high salary, but it didn't have much effect. They both like cooking and have common topics, so it's normal for them to be close. But why do I feel uncomfortable seeing them work together? Seeing Legion's worried face, the butler was a bit concerned. Lord Duke, are you tired? No, not tired. Hearing his answer, the butler tentatively asked, how about letting Luana brew you a soothing tea? All right, do that. Go tell her to prepare tea. A moment later, Luana was called to make tea. While drinking tea, Legion said, you handled the head chef's trouble well, showing you've adapted well to the mansion. I'm prepared to give you a reward. What do you want? Hearing he wanted to give her a reward, Luana looked nervous. Muttering softly, suddenly asking me to make a wish, I'm not prepared. At this moment, she suddenly had an idea. I've got it. Can I go to the market? I heard there's a fair on the street every 5 days. Why do you want to go to the market? Someone buys all the ingredients you need for cooking. Ah, you just don't understand. It's very interesting to go and select things yourself. I also want to see the specialties of the empire. Don't worry, I absolutely have no intention of escaping, not even a bit. If you're worried, you can let Wei go with me. Hearing Luana mention Wei, Legion spat out his tea. If you really want to go, wait until I'm resting and I'll accompany you. Ah, aren't you busy? It's fine, one day won't matter. The Duke has gotten used to the little maid's cooking, making other food even harder to swallow. In the afternoon in the kitchen, Luana was listlessly washing dishes. At this time, Wei came over and said, Luana, let's prepare dinner for Lord Duke. Luana sighed and replied, no need. Recently, we don't need to prepare dinner. Why? He said from today on, he's going to the palace. Lunch and dinner will be eaten there. He only instructed me to prepare breakfast for him. Hearing her words, Wei felt sympathetic. She's dejected because she can't prepare meals for Lord Duke. I used to be like her, I understand very well. As he was thinking, a burning fire ignited beside Wei. Luana, cheer up. But at this moment, Luana was feeling a bit low. While tidying up the kitchen, she was lost in thought. I've been carefully preparing meals for him recently, finally got him to be a bit more docile. What if he eats poorly outside and comes back grumpy again? Starving for 2 meals with so much work to do, and going to the palace continuously for many days. He'll definitely turn back into the irritable Duke from before. Seeing her turning things over and over, Wei asked, "Are you looking for something?" "No, I'm just wiping this side while I'm at it." At this moment, Luana froze when she saw something on top. Oh, there's still this. In the evening at the Imperial Palace, the sound of clashing weapons came from the training ground. Legion demonstrated while instructing. Do you understand? When the opponent is as tall and big as you, don't just use your elbows, use your shoulders to exert force. Yes, Lord Duke. We'll correct it immediately. At this time, a guard came over and said, "It's dinner time." At the dining table, the guards were chattering away. "Wow. Having a steak after special training feels so good." Another guard replied, "Isn't it? Food and fighting power are Libeton's strengths." Legion looked at the steak in his hand with some hesitation. Taking a bite, it was indeed extremely unpalatable. Seems like I've gotten used to the witch's meals. Now eating food made by others is even more unpalatable. But even if it tastes bad, I have to eat something. I didn't eat lunch, I can't go hungry for dinner too. He picked up a piece of steak, ready to put it in his mouth. Before he could eat it, a guard walked in from behind. "Lord Duke, His Majesty commands you to go to the reception hall for a meeting after dinner." Hearing the guard's words, Legion looked at the disgusting steak and stood up, replying, "I'll go now." Hearing this, the guard asked in confusion, "Go now? Wouldn't it be better if you finish eating first?" "Forget it, let's go now." "I'm not eating." The little maid was worried that the Duke wasn't eating well outside, so she thoughtfully prepared a love-filled bento. The next morning, Legion was about to go to the palace to train troops as usual. He saw a pile of boxes on the ground. "What's this?" Luana smiled sweetly and replied, "This is the bento I prepared for you." Legion put on its Sundra face, "Didn't I say? The palace provides meals. You can't eat them, can you?" Legion glanced inadvertently, but his heart was already blooming with joy. "Who said I must eat your food? You want me to take all this with me?" Luana paused. "Well, I made more and more. It's for lunch and dinner, 2 meals. It'll definitely fill you up." "It's too much, I can't carry it. I've already thought about it. Can we put it in the carriage? It might be a bit troublesome though, but these are all carefully prepared by me and very delicious." Seeing him unmoved, Luana started her coquettish mode. "Come on, say yes. Please." Legion really couldn't resist and had to agree. In the palace, the emperor and a knight were discussing. "You're saying Legion came to the palace in the morning with a carriage following?" The knight replied, "Yes." Hearing this, the emperor was puzzled. "That's strange. Who could be in the carriage? I heard there's no one inside, just a bunch of baskets." After hearing this, the emperor smiled knowingly. "Is that so? I happen to have something to discuss with the Duke. I'll go take a look myself." Soon, the emperor came to Legion's room. "You mean the carriage? That's just a small matter, not worth your majesty's concern." The emperor smiled mischievously. "Is that so? You used to come to work at the palace alone. This time you brought personal items, it's really intriguing." Legion glanced and replied, "It's just some bentos." Hearing this, the emperor's mouth watered. "Need a carriage to carry them? Is the carriage full of delicious food?" Legion took out a small portion of the bento and placed it on the table, but after taking it out, he felt very embarrassed. The emperor laughed happily. "Can you finish all this by yourself?" Legion looked embarrassed. "I didn't expect there would be so much. Since that's the case, you don't mind sharing with me, do you?" Saying this, his little hand couldn't help but reach for the delicious food. Although Legion was unwilling in his heart, the other party was the ruler of the country, so he had no choice but to agree to share. Seeing Legion gradually become docile, the emperor nodded with satisfaction. "It seems the princess is taming him. I just probed a little and he's already so unwilling. It shows the princess is quite important to him." Thinking about this, the emperor actually had the idea of playing matchmaker. Right now, he had a good way to bring them together. "The food is plentiful today. We can chat while we eat." The emperor couldn't handle the person he liked, so he thought of using the abandoned princess as a go-between. At night, Luana kept staring out the window, lost in thought. Wei walked over and said, "Hey, is there something outside the window? You're looking so intently, what are you watching?" Luana nervously replied, "No, nothing. You've been out of sorts all day. You almost broke your beloved sauce jar, put spices in the wrong bottles, and fell 5 times in the kitchen." Hearing this, Luana explained, "It wasn't 5 times, was it? But Lord Duke took a bento for the first time today. I'm worried the food will go bad, or the taste won't be authentic. I also don't know if he ate enough. Wei replied, I understand how you feel. As a professional chef, it's normal to want to know how the food you made tastes. Hearing this, Luana suddenly felt a bit relieved. You think so too? As they were talking, there was a knock at the door. Princess, it's Butler Kane. Lord Duke asked me to tell you he's back at the mansion. As soon as he finished speaking, Luana zoomed out. She quickly ran to the Duke's room. Lord Legion, I have something I want to ask you. How was the taste of today's bento? Do I have to give feedback? Luana replied, of course. Only if you point it out can I pay attention when I make bento tomorrow. Hearing this, Legion's little face instantly turned red. It was delicious. His Majesty liked it too. Luana excitedly asked, His Majesty too? Did you eat together? Legion replied, no need to prepare for tomorrow. Hearing this, Luana hurriedly asked why. Tomorrow, come to the palace with me. The next day at the palace, the maid disappointedly took out the food. You don't want to eat again today? It's been several days already. If this continues, I'm worried her body won't be able to take it. In the room, Ingrid clutched her hungry, rumbling stomach. I haven't eaten anything. I feel dizzy and more unclear. But she was still happy because only by persevering could she go underground to see her father and mother. Thinking about this, she felt her mother calling her. But the next second, her mother suddenly let go and disappeared. Ingrid pulled hard, and there was a tearing sound beside her. It turned out to be the curtain. I'm so hungry that I'm even having hallucinations. Thoughts of longing occupied her heart, causing her to shed sorrowful tears. At this moment, the door suddenly opened from outside. Luana looked at her in surprise. Oh my God. Sister Ingrid, are you all right? Ingrid looked towards the sound, thinking, am I hallucinating again? This child looks so familiar. Luana, is that you? Luana happily ran over. It's me, sister. I'm here. Seeing her beloved sister, she showed a happy smile. After the king and queen were killed, this was also the first time Ingrid felt the warmth of family. For the sake of his beloved little maid, the Duke actually publicly defied the Emperor. The night before, the Emperor came to Ingrid's room and said, I finally got you. If you don't eat, you'll starve to death. Ingrid clutched her clothes tightly. If you started all this, just to get me, then I definitely won't let you have me intact, absolutely not. Recalling last night's scene, Ingrid was still angry. Hearing this, Luana felt very regretful. I heard you weren't doing well, but I didn't expect it to be this serious. I made you a bowl of porridge. Eat some quickly. Ingrid took the spoon with some hesitation. Are you doing all right? We've lost everything. Our cities that once belonged to us, parents, people, country, now it's all gone, nothing left. But why do you look not sad at all? Hearing this, Luana pondered carefully. Maybe what I lost is different from what sister lost. I only lost some ragged clothes and a small abandoned palace. I've been locked up there since I was little. Father was like a stranger to me, I can't even remember his face clearly. Apart from that, I didn't lose anything. Unlike sister, I was an abandoned princess. Hearing this, Ingrid was stunned. I'm sorry, I didn't think it through. Luana replied, even so, I can understand your pain. On the contrary, I understand more clearly. I once lost everything too, but compared to loss, I saw something more important, which is being alive. Think about it, what can we do here? Hearing this, Ingrid suddenly had an epiphany. Things we can do while alive. Luana smiled and answered, while alive, we can taste all kinds of delicious food, we can do things we want to do. Hearing this, Ingrid picked up the spoon and started eating. Seeing her finally eating, Luana felt much more at ease. This action made Ingrid feel the warmth of family again, and tears fell down. Luana gently patted her back. Eat slowly, there's more. After eating, Ingrid fell asleep on the bed. Seeing this, Luana felt a bit sad. It seems sister hasn't been sleeping well lately. Just then, the Emperor swaggered in with Legion. Looks like my method worked. She's finally willing to eat. Luana replied from the side, sister just fell asleep. The Emperor showed a wicked smile. His hand caressed Ingrid's face. Seeing this, Luana quickly blocked the bed. Sister is asleep. Don't touch her. Legion was suddenly shocked, thinking, since when did this little thing become so brave? The Emperor was also startled by her action. So what? Sister just fell asleep. Even if it's your Majesty, you shouldn't disturb sister. To prevent her from speaking out of turn again, Legion quickly came out to save the situation. She doesn't understand etiquette. Please forgive her, your Majesty. The Emperor was quite annoyed. The princess is being insolent, why is it the knight apologizing to me? Legion replied forcefully, because she's my person now. Luana felt a bit shy hearing this. The Emperor, fed a mouthful of dog food, was quite upset. Forget it, I don't want to hear it. You two can leave. After they left, the Emperor was a bit angry. A bold princess who dares to scold the Emperor, and a ridiculous subordinate who protects the princess. How outrageous. Looking at the sleeping Ingrid on the bed, he had an evil thought in his heart. Why not just take the abandoned princess back as well? The Duke publicly declared his ownership, making the little maid blush. In front of me, you desperately beg me to spare you, but in front of the Emperor, you seek death. Be more careful in the future. His Majesty's temperament is not gentle. At this moment, Luana was full of regret. Yes, I'll definitely be careful in the future. I just saw sister looking so pitiful. In a moment of impulse, I dared to talk back to His Majesty. I must have been crazy at that time. That guy destroyed a country just to get Sister Ingrid. He's a psycho. Thinking of what just happened, Luana's eyes gradually became dreamy. Lord Duke, am I your person? Legion was instantly stunned. This question is really unnecessary. You're a captive under my command. If you cause trouble, I'm responsible too. Don't you know that? Luana was stumped by this retort. Okay, I understand. I'll definitely be more careful in the future. Seeing her become obedient, Legion felt much more at ease. Soon it was time to go shopping, and Luana excitedly asked, don't I need to bring a basket? The butler replied that someone else would be in charge of carrying the ingredients, so she probably wouldn't need one. The Duke is waiting for you, hurry along now. The marketplace was bustling with activity, with food and clothing stalls lining the streets. Luana was instantly captivated by the scene before her. Wow! I had no idea the Empire's marketplace was so big. This is as big as a village. I'm sure I'll see many ingredients I've never encountered before. As she walked, she found herself pushed into the middle of the crowd. Just as she was about to be knocked over, she called out to the Duke for help. In a moment of crisis, Legion quickly grabbed her hand. Losing her balance, Luana fell straight into his arms. I know you're excited, but you'd better stay close to me. Faced with such a domineering statement, Luana's cheeks instantly turned red. Alright, I understand. Legion watched as she clung tightly to him. He thought to himself, how ridiculous. She could easily let go of me and hide in the crowd to escape, but she's sticking close to me instead. Is this calculated or just brainless? As they browsed, Luana spotted an unfamiliar ingredient and called out loudly, Lord Legion. I want to buy this. The vendor, sensing a sale, immediately greeted them. Beautiful young lady, you have excellent taste. How much would you like? I want to buy a lot, a whole lot. Looking at the strange fruit, Legion found it unfamiliar. That fruit looks peculiar. What do you plan to do with it? I can make a delicious dessert with it. Seeing her enthusiasm, Legion thought to himself that he must have been overthinking things. This girl clearly didn't have the brains to plot an escape route. After shopping, Luana happily thanked the Duke. Thank you so much. I spent quite a lot of money today. Legion replied dismissively, what do you take the Duke's household for? If you hadn't been so stubborn about coming to the market, I could have bought all the ingredients in the market by type and had them placed in the kitchen. Upon hearing this, Luana suddenly understood the joy of spending money. In that case, please help me fill another 10 baskets with it. The Duke, because of a mysterious man, had suddenly confined Luana. At the marketplace, Luana carried her basket, looking around. She thought to herself, Lord Legion has been so busy since returning from the palace. I feel bad that he can't always accompany me shopping. He must be exhausted. Just as she was about to turn back to find him, she realized he had disappeared. Duke, where are you? You said not to leave your side, but now you've vanished. At that moment, the crowd surged, and Luana was pushed backwards. She thought, oh no. I'm really going to fall this time. But in the next second, a man caught her from behind. He smiled and asked, are you alright? Are you hurt? Looking into the man's sapphire-like eyes, Luana's cheeks flushed slightly. Coming to her senses, she quickly moved to the side. Thank you for helping me. The man inquired, are you Luana? Luana replied, yes, but then fell into thought. How does he know my name? Do you know me? Of course. I also know you're a child of Alana. Hearing the man's words, Luana was startled. She was about to ask something, when Legion suddenly rushed up from behind, holding his sword to the man's throat, and demanded, who are you? Do you know her? Luana shook her head frantically. Legion pressed the man again, who exactly are you? If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I'll cut you down. The man remained coldly silent. Just as the atmosphere grew tense, Luana grabbed Legion's sleeve and said, Lord Legion, please wait. He only said one thing to me. Please don't kill him. As soon as she finished speaking, a smile appeared on the man's face. Luana, this isn't the right time or place. We'll meet again. With that, he vanished in a wisp of purple smoke. Seeing the man disappear instantly, Legion was shocked. The two stood there in a state of intense tension for a long while. Back at the Duke's mansion, Luana was confined by Legion. Hey, is anyone out there? Please tell Lord Legion I need to see him, just for a moment. She banged on the door repeatedly. Seeing no response, Luana's inner volcano erupted. Oh my. What's going on? He's kept me confined for days since we returned from the market. How can he treat me like this? I really don't know that man. To punish the maid, The Duke heartlessly threw her into prison, recalling the man from a few days ago, with purple hair and white eyeballs. If I had seen him before, I certainly wouldn't have forgotten. But how did a stranger know my name? And what did he mean by, child of Elenia, that is, our child? Could he know my mother? Elenia was indeed Luana's birth mother. By imperial grace, she was lucky enough to become a palace maid, but she died after giving birth. Her good fortune had come to an end. In his office, Legion carefully examined Luana's file. Thrown into the abandoned palace right after birth, living in poverty. Even the maids all fled. The only one who stayed by her side was this woman. A few days ago in the prison, Legion came to investigate. Are you asking how the princess lived in the palace? At first, she had to cultivate fields and abandoned courtyards and did needlework. She bought her own ingredients and cooked. Although life was hard, the princess never complained. She even taught herself how to cook. After recalling this, Legion felt conflicted. A witch's growth process must be different from ordinary people. She had admitted to me before, but that man, how could he possibly disappear without a trace? Damn it, if Luana hadn't stopped me, I definitely wouldn't have let that man escape. I was careless. Humph, she even said she was my person. This witch, cursing my family and making my clan suffer, pretending to be crazy and stupid while secretly helping her own kind. As he was deep in thought, the butler knocked on the door and asked, Your Grace, dinner is ready. Would you like to eat? Legion angrily replied, I won't eat. Go to Luana's room and bring her to the prison. Meanwhile, Luana was enjoying a medium-rare steak with great satisfaction. This is truly delicious. Wei, you've outdone yourself. Suddenly, she thought of Legion. I haven't cooked for him these past few days. He won't be starving himself, will he? But then she remembered it was he who confined her here. Luana shook her head vigorously. Why am I worrying about him? I won't care if he's hungry or not. Then she began to eat with big bites. Time passed minute by minute. Luana grew restless in her confinement. Sigh, what's the point of locking me up like this? Though, no matter how I explain it this time, he probably won't believe me. Humph. Hot-tempered, stupid, petty, and overly suspicious. As she was venting her emotions, a knock on the door startled her. Who is it? Luana, it's me, Kane. Grandpa, has my confinement not been lifted? That's right. Then where are you taking me now? The butler didn't answer her question. And so, the two walked along the dim lamplight. As they walked, Luana looked around. She thought, isn't this the way to the underground prison? Am I being sent back there? It seems the market incident has caused a misunderstanding. Although I barely made it through before, this time it looks like I'm really done for. Even if I tell the truth, Legion might not listen. What should I do? What should I do? Should I run away? The girl was wrongly accused by the Duke and taken to prison. On the way, the girl thought about escaping, but quickly dismissed the idea. Escaping would only turn Legion's suspicion into certainty. The misunderstanding arose because she hadn't had a chance to see him. If she could see him and explain, maybe things would be alright. The beautiful memories they had created before were forgotten by him because of this one misunderstanding. Humph. I absolutely can't give up now. The streetlights flickered, making a rustling sound. Kane brought Luana before the Duke. Legion coldly asked, has she arrived? Luana popped out from behind, replying, I'm here. Seeing her, Legion's eyes grew even colder. He stepped forward and grabbed her. Lord Legion, what are you going to do? Please let me go. Didn't you want to explain? Come on, sit over there and talk slowly. Tell me about the other witches you haven't mentioned before. Seeing his cold eyes, Luana couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. His killing intent was different from before, as if he wanted to flay her alive. Thinking this, she grabbed his hand, trying to break free. Lord Legion, please listen to my explanation first. Seeing her still daring to argue, Legion was somewhat surprised. He shook off her hand and shouted, get away. Luana moved closer, seeing his condition. Tears immediately flowed. Lord Legion, why have you lost so much weight? Seeing Luana's moving appearance, Legion's heart began to beat erratically against his will. He recalled his conversation with Kane earlier that day. I want to interrogate her. It doesn't matter if we don't get any information. Their kind values their own extremely highly. Through her, we should be able to draw out other witches. Your Grace, do you really want to put her in prison? She deceived me, always pretending to care about me, to understand me. Putting her in prison is already the best treatment. After recalling this, seeing Luana's pitiful appearance, the Duke softened a bit. He tugged at his clothes and turned to leave. The woman behind him asked, Your Grace, are you not feeling well? Should I conduct the interrogation instead? No need. I suddenly remembered an urgent matter. Keep her confined for now and await my instructions. Remember, don't harm her. Seeing Legion about to leave, the woman called out, Your Grace, whatever urgent business you have, I can handle it for you. Legion ignored her and walked straight out, passing by Kane and instructing, Go call for a doctor. Kane, looking confused, replied, All right, As Legion walked, he covered his nose, as if some liquid was about to gush out. In a tavern, a group of people sat around a table discussing the affairs of the Duke's mansion. Have you heard? The Duke encountered a magical person that day. They say this person could vanish instantly. The Duke even specially dispatched servants to search everywhere, but it seems they haven't found anything even after so many days. I heard they caught a little witch and have now imprisoned her for interrogation. Their conversation happened to be overheard by a mysterious man. Hearing that Luana had been imprisoned, the man's face instantly darkened. The nearby waiter, seeing them chattering endlessly, angrily shouted, "Quiet! Don't you care about other customers? Where in the world are there witches?" But as soon as he finished speaking, he found that the man at the table had vanished. The little maid only wanted to cook delicious food for the Duke. But the Duke, due to a misunderstanding, heartlessly threw her into prison. Luana shivered from the cold in the dungeon. But no matter how cold it wasn't as cold as Legion's eyes when he looked at her. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel sad. Is the Duke despising me? Suddenly, all the torches in the dungeon went out. Everything went pitch black before her eyes. Luana curled up, not daring to move. The man lit a match and held it in front of her. Luana only relaxed when she saw it was the butler. The butler placed a plate of food in front of her. I've brought you something to eat. These are cream soup and bread personally made by the head chef. Luana, who hadn't eaten for several days, now salivated at the sight of this food. She picked up the plate and began eating large mouthfuls. Seeing her like this, the butler couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Why didn't you run away back then? Hearing this, Luana broke out in a cold sweat. Run away? The butler replied, actually, you had already guessed the situation when you left the room. When I stepped away to let you change clothes, and when I led you through the empty hallways, you had several chances to escape. Hearing this, Luana looked troubled. But if I ran away, Lord Legion's suspicions about me would become certainties. As you said, I had thought that the Lord might interrogate me because I did something suspicious. But this really is a misunderstanding, so I just wanted to see him face to face and explain, no matter where the conversation took place. I never expected he would torture me. It's too much. Hearing this, the butler tried to explain on the Duke's behalf. Your behavior in the marketplace was indeed hard to believe. Luana suddenly realized, oh, so it was because of that person. There really was nothing to it, so I just wanted to explain to him personally. On the other side, at the Duke's mansion, Legion learned from the doctor that a witch's curse cannot overlap. Once a witch has cursed a human, other witches cannot add another curse. Legion was confused after hearing this. If it's not a curse, why does his heart always ache? The doctor smiled knowingly. Actually, this symptom is common among young people. At first, they're very confused, but over time they naturally find the cause and solution. The most important thing is, when you feel that pain, what you should do is listen to your own heart. The doctor's vague explanation left the inexperienced Legion even more perplexed. Seeing his state, the doctor asked, Your Grace, may I see that witch? Legion impatiently replied, Do as you wish. Late at night, the butler had just returned from the dungeon and immediately reported. As Your Grace predicted, rather than harsh interrogation, Lady Luana finally opened up under gentle questioning. Legion asked irritably, So? How does she explain her behavior in the marketplace? The butler then recounted everything Luana had said in the dungeon to Legion. The young lady said that because it was her first time going out with you, she was happy, grateful, and found it interesting. But if there had been a bloody incident on her first outing, she feared you would never take her out again. That's why she stopped you. Although doing so made you even angrier, seeing the young lady in the dungeon, unable to eat or stay warm, is truly heartbreaking. After hearing this, Legion chuckled foolishly. She stopped me from killing that witch not to protect an ally, but because she didn't want to ruin our outing. Realizing this, he blushed. So, does she need anything besides food? The Duke finally apologized to the little maid. Learning that Luana wasn't doing well in the dungeon, he immediately arranged for a luxurious mattress and exquisite food. Thinking this would be enough, the Duke even sent a personal maid to take care of her daily needs. Luana was a bit overwhelmed by the special treatment. Why give a prisoner such high-class treatment? The maid smiled and said this was all on the Duke's orders, she was just following instructions. Luana didn't have time to think more about it as her stomach started growling incessantly. Well, I'll think about it after eating. Then she heartily enjoyed her meal. It wasn't until the maid cleared away the dishes that she realized things weren't so simple. Could that have been my last meal? She thought. He wanted to interrogate me earlier, so how could he suddenly arrange such luxurious food? Thinking this, Luana was overcome with grief. She called for the maid, intending to write her will. If she was really going to die this time, the only thing she couldn't let go of was her precious soy sauce vat. She had imagined countless ways to eat the fermented soybean paste. Now it seemed she wouldn't have the chance. The only reliable option was to leave the vat to Wei. A week passed like this, with Luana living each day like a pig being fattened up. She had become noticeably plumper. She couldn't help but ask, "When is my execution date?" The maid replied that she had only received instructions to care for the lady's meals and daily needs, and knew nothing else. This completely baffled Luana. What is this person up to? In the Duke's mansion, after the doctor finished examining Legion, he reminded him to eat well and get more nutrients, and also not to forget the special prescription he mentioned last time. With that, he picked up his medicine box and left. After the doctor left, Legion fell into deep thought. The doctor had previously told him to listen to his heart, but his heart was very clear. It was to never coexist with witches. His father had died due to a witch's curse, and his mother had left the Duke's mansion heartbroken. Left alone in the vast family estate, he had shouldered the responsibility of reviving the family from a young age. So in Legion's life, he had a blood feud with witches, and witches would only take away everything that belonged to him. But thinking carefully, what had Luana taken away? On the contrary, since she came, he had tasted flavors he had never experienced before. Thinking of this, Legion couldn't help but hesitate. Is she really a witch? Could it all be a misunderstanding? Just then, a knock came at the door. Legion opened it to find the doctor had returned, and asked if he had forgotten something. The doctor looked confused. What do you mean? Your Grace, I just arrived. Legion instantly lost patience. What nonsense are you talking about? Haven't you been here all week treating me? Hearing this, the doctor was shocked. How is that possible? I was away from home due to some matters. I only rushed over today after receiving your Grace's summons. Upon hearing this, Legion immediately realized something was wrong. Oh no, something's about to happen. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Luana was staring blankly at this unfamiliar face. The Duke realized the little maid was in danger and immediately went to rescue her. Legion ran desperately to the dungeon, ignoring the guards' attempts to stop him. Seeing Luana safe and sound, he felt greatly relieved. Since you haven't gone far, I can forgive you, and I'll even reward you for luring out the real witch. Then Legion reached out his hand, gesturing for Luana to come over, but the mysterious person gave him no chance. He threw a vial of magic powder at him. Legion's vision began to blur. The mysterious person wanted to escape with Luana, but seeing Legion desperately trying to stop them, Luana hesitated. Seeing her hesitation, Legion mistakenly thought they were in league together. His hatred for witches instantly surged. He bit his own hand, using the pain to stay conscious. Today, neither of you will leave this place. Luana saw this and felt somewhat heartbroken. But to lift the curse on the Duke and prevent him from suffering in the future, she had no choice but to leave with the mysterious person. Because the mysterious person was the only one who knew how to lift the curse. After much deliberation, she decided to leave temporarily. Before leaving, she explained to the Duke, "Don't be angry, Your Grace. I will definitely come back." After escaping, Luana was a bit worried. Will there be any side effects from the powder you sprinkled earlier? The mysterious person proudly replied, "That powder is my exclusively produced Galahad superior potion. It will just make him sleep for a while, with no side effects." Luana nodded. So his name is Galahad. The Duke was right, he really is a witch. But why is he a potion witch, not a powder witch? Galahad explained that each witch excels in different areas, hence the different titles. Then he led Luana to a house. As soon as they entered, Luana was amazed by the scene before her. Wow! The house looked so small from the outside, but it's so big inside. Galahad explained this was the work of a space witch. Also, aren't you curious about what kind of witch your mother was? Hearing this, Luana's face flushed red. Of course I'm curious, but more than that, I want to know who cursed Lord Legion first. Galahad looked puzzled. Why are you so fixated on that man's curse? Luana began to pour out her grievances as if a floodgate had opened. The Duke can't taste any food. He can't experience the world's sweet, sour, bitter, or spicy flavors. It's truly heartbreaking. Moreover, he didn't do anything wrong. Why should he suffer this generational family curse? After hearing her naive statement, Galahad smiled coldly. You think children aren't responsible for their parents' sins? No matter what the other said, Luana stuck to her viewpoint. Even if there is a connection, he has already suffered from the curse for a long time. Isn't it time to lift it? Unable to persuade her, Galahad reluctantly handed over Alana's diary. Luana looked confused. Why are you giving me my mother's diary? To her surprise, Galahad revealed a shocking secret. The witch who cursed the Duke was Alana, your birth mother. The little maid had been trying to help the Duke lift the curse, but she never expected the one who cast the curse was her own mother. Learning the truth, Luana was thunderstruck. So Legion's initial judgment was correct. At this moment, she only wanted to quickly obtain the method to lift the curse. However, Galahad revealed a smile tinged with conspiracy. Only the one who cast the curse knows that. I only said I knew who cast the curse, not how to lift it. Hearing this, Luana instantly felt she had been tricked. She had betrayed the Duke to come here. How could she go back now? Galahad, unable to bear seeing her so dejected, advised her that she might find a solution through her mother's diary. Although witches aren't that kind, they wouldn't curse an innocent person for no reason. Hearing his suggestion, Luana immediately went to her room to read the diary. The next day, Luana came to Galahad with an angry demeanor. "Are you sure you didn't lie to me? I read all night and there's nothing but recipes in this diary. You're clearly taking advantage of my ignorance to deceive me." She then burst into loud tears on the table. Galahad tried to explain, "Why would I deceive you, a little witch? Besides, if you could read it all night, doesn't that mean you found the diary interesting?" Mentioning the diary's contents, Luana suddenly became interested. "Because this diary contains the chocolate recipe I've always wanted to know. There are many interesting foods in it. I ended up reading it all night without realizing." Hearing this, Galahad quickly got up to search. Ilana was a food witch. No one could surpass her in cooking. Also, this is her second diary. Luana angrily snatched it away. "Couldn't you have given them to me all at once?" Galahad pitifully explained, "I can't see the contents inside, so I forgot a bit. When I heard you mention it, I remembered again. Please understand." Luana snorted coldly and ran upstairs. "Don't disturb me while I'm reading." However, persistence pays off. Luana found the reason her mother cursed the Duke's family in the second diary. That year, Ilana traveled alone to the vast northern region to research recipes. During that time, she met a little boy. The boy was crying incessantly because he couldn't make delicious potato bread. From the boy's words, she learned that a new lord was coming, which meant taxes would increase. The northern lands were perpetually dry, and crop yields were poor. If the new lord raised taxes, these serfs would have no way to survive. The little boy wanted to make delicious potato bread to give to the lord during his inspection visit. Although he knew this wouldn't stop the lord's decision, seeing everyone scrambling to pay taxes, he wanted to do something for them. So he thought of making delicious potato bread for the new lord, hoping he might be lenient with the taxes. Ilana was touched by the little boy's sincerity and decided to help him. After many attempts, they finally made delicious bread. As the new lord arrived, the boy immediately presented the delicious bread. But unexpectedly, the new lord showed great disdain. He angrily threw the bread on the ground. "You think I'll eat just anything? Seeing such cheap bread makes my mouth bitter." The boy's parents immediately pulled him away to apologize. Seeing the boy's goodwill trampled upon, Ilana became extremely angry and cursed the Duke. "It seems you don't need your tongue anymore. From now on, your family will never taste any food again." Because of Legion's father's behavior back then, it led to the entire family being affected. Learning the true reason for the curse, Luana deflated like a punctured balloon. Galahad feigned calmness and said, "It's time for you to make a decision." Luana asked in confusion, "What decision?" "The witches' night will be held in 3 days. Do you want to participate?" Luana was puzzled. "What's witches' night and what does it have to do with me?" Galahad grinned and said, "It's like a sacred festival among witches. Only there can you become a true witch." After being betrayed by the little maid, the Duke had nightmares every night. But he still couldn't stop thinking about Luana. To find her quickly, Legion posted wanted posters all over the world. The butler tried to persuade him, "Do you really need to do this? Miss Luana said she would come back." Legion laughed coldly, "You believe her lies?" Then he threw a portrait on the table. "Use this one. Double the previous reward amount." The butler held the portrait in his hands, deeply worried about the future relationship between the two. On the other side, Luana was still struggling with whether to become a witch or not. Galahad told her, "Only by attending the witch's ceremony and becoming a true witch can you cast and lift curses. Your cooking skills will also greatly improve." Hearing this, Luana couldn't help but be tempted because she wanted to know what expression would be on Legion's face if he ate food even more delicious than now. To make the most delicious food, effort alone wasn't enough. It also required a witch's magical enhancement. After leaving the abandoned palace, Legion and his knights, even head chef Wei, and even the common people who never used to look at her properly, all praised her cooking as delicious. Luana wanted to return to the Duke's mansion. She wanted to hear their comments on the food, to see their happy expressions when eating delicious food. Rather than being cooped up in a small house, she wanted to cook in a bigger world. But if she really became a witch, would they still treat her the same as before? Although Galahad made it sound simple, once you adapt to magic, you can't understand those who don't use magic. This wasn't just a small change, but a big one. What scared Luana more was, if she really became a witch, what if Legion hated her? As she was thinking, Galahad brought a drink to Luana. Luana asked suspiciously, "Why are you so keen on turning me into a witch?" Galahad coldly replied, "Because your mother was my best friend." Hearing this, Luana's eyes showed confusion. To help her understand his good intentions, Galahad told Luana about his childhood. Galahad was the only male among all the witches. A witch giving birth to a boy was considered unfortunate. Most boys would die in infancy due to lack of magical power. Even if they barely survived, they were seen as outcasts by their own kind. so his childhood was very miserable. He was ostracized by his peers and had no friends. Only Alana was willing to approach him, showing him her magic, and giving him hot cocoa she made with magic. Alana was a glimmer of warmth in Galahad's heart. This is the charm of magic. It can not only protect oneself but also heal others. Alana was very happy to become a witch after learning she was a descendant of witches. She was delighted that she could use magic to do all sorts of things. Alana felt very happy after becoming a witch, so I hope her daughter will feel happy becoming a witch too. After hearing this, Luana suddenly understood. If that's the case, then I'm willing to become a witch. Since the little maid left, the Duke had been unable to eat or sleep properly. For Legion's health, the butler decided to hold a cooking competition, to help the Duke find a new love. The only condition for participation was being a single woman. As soon as the announcement was posted, countless noble girls rushed to sign up. Whether they had cooking skills didn't matter, getting close to the Duke was the most important thing. To ensure the fairness of the competition, the Duke's mansion specially invited the Emperor. Ingrid, wanting to see Luana at the cooking competition, asked the Emperor to bring her along. Meanwhile, Wei was displeased when she heard the butler wanted to find someone to replace Luana. Miss Luana's culinary skills have a special quality that can't be replaced by just anyone. As she was thinking, a strange noise came from the direction of the sauce vat. Wei hurried over to check. This is Miss Luana's precious sauce vat. I'll see who dares to touch it. But when she arrived, there was nothing there. This confused her. Had she imagined it? The cooking competition was in full swing, but as the event organizer, Legion was the last to know about it. He angrily slammed the invitation on the table. He couldn't believe the butler had acted on his own. Now, his only focus was finding Luana and clearing up the truth about the curse. He had no interest in finding any beautiful chef. The butler, seeing his anger, quickly explained, "This matter was personally approved and stamped by you, sir." Legion looked bewildered, as he had no memory of this happening. But since the butler said so, he couldn't say much. Seeing this, the butler felt somewhat smug, thinking, "Of course you don't remember. I had you stamp it while you were drunk. Although the method was a bit underhanded, it's for your future." Seeing the Duke silent, the butler confidently stated his point of view. "It's precisely because you don't remember that we need to hold this cooking competition. Your current condition is serious. If you continue not eating, it will only get worse." Legion looked lifeless. "Even the dishes of the Empire's renowned head chef don't appeal to me. What's the point of selecting a new chef?" The butler didn't answer. Instead, maids were seen pushing food carts slowly towards them. The butler placed several dishes in front of the Duke. "These are the unanimously well-received dishes from the preliminaries. If you taste these and still think holding the cooking competition is meaningless, I'll take full responsibility and resign as butler." Seeing him put it this way, Legion didn't argue further. He picked up a spoon and carefully tasted the dishes. After trying the first two, Legion's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. "It seems my condition is indeed poor if I allowed you to do such a thing." Hearing this, the butler wanted to find a place to hide, until he tasted the third dish. The fresh, sweet taste of the ingredients rushed to his brain. He couldn't help but open the window to breathe in the outside air. To verify his suspicion, he immediately ordered the butler to have the chef of the third dish prepare a few more dishes to taste. Soon the table was filled with delicious food. Legion nervously picked up a spoon. He took a bite and put it in his mouth. The aroma of beef and spices instantly exploded in his mouth. Legion was so excited his eyes crossed. It wasn't an illusion, he had regained his sense of taste. He immediately decided to tell the butler, "I want to meet the person who cooked this." The butler replied that you'll be able to meet them soon, as that contestant has already made it to tomorrow's finals. To return to the Duke's side, Luana disguised herself as the Empire's new chef, and entered the Duke's culinary competition. To ensure fairness, the butler specially invited the Emperor as a judge. "How about it, do you see anyone you like here? I heard the cooking competition was held for the Duke to choose a wife." Legion had a look of utter despair upon hearing this, surely just another of the butler's rumors. As the competition began, a foreign contestant caught everyone's attention, using rare ingredients from the continent. Onions and spices were sautéed golden in the pan, with a splash of white wine to enhance the aroma. Cheese powder was sprinkled on before removing from heat. The sauce was evenly spread over lobster before baking for 15 minutes. Finally, it was garnished with chopped parsley and parmesan. A cheesy baked lobster was ready. The judges gave high praise after tasting. The Emperor said if this contestant didn't win, he'd want to take them back to the palace. But for Legion it still tasted like chewing on paper, flavorless, yet impressive. The host looked embarrassed. For the Duke to say that was already high praise. He then turned to another contestant, "Milia, is your dish ready?" The girl nodded, "Yes, this dish is simple and doesn't take long to make. First, soak the chicken in milk to remove gaminess, then marinate overnight with pepper, salt and garlic. Then coat in batter and fry until golden, drain, and finally stir-fry in the pan with my secret sauce." A fragrant plate of saucy fried chicken is complete. The judges ate with great relish. The emperor even licked his plate clean, asking, "Can I have another serving?" The girl replied, "Of course." While everyone was discussing who would win, Legion couldn't sit still any longer. He strode up to the girl. Seeing the familiar face, he knew the one he'd been longing for day and night had returned. To keep Luana by his side forever, he announced to all, "I officially appoint you as my new chef." Then Legion made an excuse about needing to sign a contract, and led her back to his room. The girl followed nervously behind. "Duke, I have something to tell you before we sign." Legion quickly walked to her side. "What excuse are you going to make this time?" She wanted to struggle a bit more, but Legion delivered the final blow. "You think I can't taste the food you make? The soup is one thing, but that fried chicken, you could at least improve it a bit. The spices in your dish are exactly the same as the smell from whey sauce jar. There have also been reports of suspicious noises near the sauce jar recently. And what's with this outfit?" Legion grew angrier as he thought, "You just left me back then, and now you've come back to join those witches in killing me?" Luana's eyes filled with tears, the grievances she'd held back for so many days suddenly bursting forth. She pushed Legion away forcefully. "You were the one who put out a bounty on me first." Legion was stunned. Had she just pushed him? How did this little maid get such a temper after going out? Luana loudly vented her frustrations. "Didn't I tell you I'd come back once I found a way to break the curse? So I thought long and hard for a long time, and decided to become an official witch. Later I saw Galahad was very dissatisfied with the Duke, so I ran away from him, only to see my wanted posters all over the streets as soon as I got out. Then I heard you were selecting a new chef, and I felt this was the only way to talk to you face to face." Legion was moved after hearing this. "You betrayed your own kind just to return to my side?" The little maid, in order to return to the Duke's mansion, was willing to betray her own kind. Legion was touched to learn that everything Luana had done was to break the curse on him. She went to such lengths to see him just to keep her promise. Luana explained, "I used to be a witch apprentice, right? Now I've had my coming-of-age ceremony and become an official witch, and I can even use magic." Legion leaned in to ask, "So can you break my curse now too?" Luana looked troubled. "I don't have that ability yet." Legion deflated like a punctured balloon upon hearing this. "Then why did you come back? You came back empty-handed without even finding a way to break the curse? Do you think my Duke's mansion is a place you can come and go as you please?" Luana looked like a wounded little white rabbit. It seems he was quite angry. She had originally thought there would be a touching reunion. Now that seemed impossible. To prevent herself from being packed up and thrown out, she had to give the only reason she could stay by the Duke's side. "But you can't eat any food except what I make, right?" At this point, Legion was already blinded by love. "Are you worried about me?" Luana didn't answer, but suddenly thought of something important. "Don't you need to explain to that foreign contestant? If I'm not here, wouldn't that person be the winner? Didn't you say that contestant's cooking was very impressive?" Legion looked confused. "I don't understand. Now that you're back, why would I still need to choose a chef?" Luana scratched her head in frustration. You suddenly rejecting that contestant would be very hurtful to them. Besides, I can't cook for you forever, right? You need to consider life after the curse is broken too. With those words, Legion instantly exploded. Why? Why can't it be forever? Luana blushed bright red. That's a lifetime, you know what you're saying? Legion looked disdainful. You just want to give that contestant the prize money and opportunity, right? If that's what you want, I can give it to you. But I have one condition, contract to date me and pretend to be my fiancé. Luana was stunned speechless upon hearing this. There's a rumor going around that I'm looking for a new bride because of the cooking competition. And you've been judged by your own kind and need my firm guarantee. Being my fiancé can quell the rumors about me finding a bride, and you can naturally stay by my side as my lover. I think this is a win-win solution. Luana felt like she'd fallen into a wolf's den. Then how do we explain me participating in the cooking competition under a fake identity? Legion had already paved the way for her. Milia had to return to her hometown for an emergency, and you found your way back through your own efforts after an accident from making food outside without permission before. Luana couldn't help but criticize, isn't this character setting too lame? But compared to me running away because I'm a witch, this reason is indeed easier for people to accept. The witch maid transforms into the Duke's fiancé. She has dedicated attendants daily, endless beautiful dresses to wear, and the Duke's personal protection when going out. The maids were gossiping among themselves, have you noticed? The two of them are getting closer and closer. Perhaps feeling the maid's gazes, Legion put on a sour face as soon as he got in the carriage. Can't you act more intimate? Luana angrily retorted, I'm trying my best, okay. The thought of pretending to be lovers made her feel uncomfortable all over. Was this another form of punishment? Legion was unconcerned. If you're unwilling to maintain the current situation, hurry up and find a way to break the curse. Luana looked troubled. But, Lord Legion, I haven't found a method yet. Hearing her call him Lord again and again, Legion was immediately displeased. Didn't I tell you to just call me by name? He then snorted coldly and turned his head away. Seeing the Duke's tsundere behavior, Luana felt a surge of frustration. But everyone knows my background. What if dating me ruins Lord Legion's reputation? Maybe there's a better way, why don't we go back first? Legion looked impatient. I already said to just call me by name. I really don't understand why background is so important. This solution is only temporary. Can't you just think of the name, and today's date, as a travel contract? Luana hesitated after hearing this. Legion gradually lost patience. He threw her a flirtatious look. Could it be that you have someone you like? Luana's heart started racing when she saw this. The beauty attack was too much, she was about to drool. Luana shyly turned her head away. No, no one I like. After getting the answer, Legion revealed an evil smile. Then there's no problem, my fiancé. Luana completely gave up resisting and slumped in her chair. The carriage stopped in front of an exquisite shop. Luana looked outside. Where is this? Legion pulled her inside without a word. I thought carefully about what you said, and it's not unreasonable. I really don't care about background, but I don't like others looking down on you. As he spoke, the two arrived at a high-end clothing store. Legion waved his hand, pick whatever you like. In all her years, Luana had never seen so many exquisite clothes. She confirmed with the Duke again, I can really choose from all of these? Legion looked bewildered. That's right, and the more expensive the better. Luana hesitated. How can such expensive things be worn on me? Legion immediately dispelled her doubts. Only this way will others believe I like you. High society loves to gossip. Doing this will definitely make others believe we're really dating. If you like someone, you should be endlessly good to them. The Duke takes the little maid shopping for clothes. Luana looked left and right, always feeling unworthy of these exquisite clothes. The clothes she wore in the side palace before were all patched together by her wet nurse from old cloth. She had never bought new clothes in all these years. There were too many styles, leaving her dazzled. Should she choose bright colors, or something more high-end? Legion saw she was conflicted and quickly walked to the clerk's side. After the two conversed briefly, the clerk guided Luana to the fitting room, and found a dress suitable for her. Luana put it on and looked in the mirror from all angles. It was indeed very beautiful. Although the one she just tried on was also pretty, this one was much more comfortable to wear. The clerk suddenly pulled back the curtain. Legion was entranced, giving what he thought was the best compliment. It suits you. Suitable for cooking in. Luana's heart fluttered like a little deer. After buying clothes, Legion took her to a famous dessert shop. Luana stared at the strawberry cake in front of her, swallowing. Is this the delicious dessert set Wei told me about? But are you okay? Doesn't the Duke not eat food from outside? Legion didn't answer. Instead, he picked up a spoon, scooped up a small piece of cake and held it out to her. It's fine, I came here for you anyway. Luana was stunned for a moment. What's going on? Why is he acting strange? As she was puzzling over this, she overheard two noble ladies talking nearby. From the content, it seemed they were discussing her and Legion. Luana suddenly understood the Duke's intentions and blushed as she ate the cake. Legion asked attentively, is it delicious? Luana excitedly waved her hands and feet. It's so good. Although being stared at was a bit uncomfortable, it was nothing compared to the delicious cake. Luana ate wolfishly while Legion's stomach growled beside her. Luana asked the soul-searching question, are you hungry? Legion rolled his eyes in anger. Not hungry. As long as you're full. Luana had a flash of inspiration and decided to give him a different dining experience. Excuse me, is there an open area nearby? Legion thought for a moment and remembered the riverside they were planning to visit later. Luana clapped her hands in delight when she heard this, and suggested, let's go there for a picnic. After arriving at the riverside, Luana ordered the attendants to prepare pots, bowls, and utensils. Legion was confused. Didn't you say picnic? Luana scratched her head shyly. If I make it in advance it won't taste good, so I decided to cook on the spot. Legion said it was troublesome, but was actually delighted inside. He didn't forget to remind her not to dirty her clothes. Once everything was ready, Luana began to show off her skills. She put chili sauce, sugar and soy sauce in a pot of water for seasoning. Then she added chopped onions and green onions to the pot. Next, she added the secret ingredient she had carefully prepared last night. When the sauce thickened, she finally plated it with the prepared side dishes. The spicy stir-fried rice cakes were ready. To prevent the Duke from crying from the spiciness, Luana thoughtfully prepared spicy snacks and cooling tea. Legion was unfamiliar with the new menu. He immediately asked what the paper-like thing was. Luana rolled her eyes. That's fish cake made from fish and seafood. The white strips are rice cakes made from glutinous rice flour. After getting the answer, Legion picked up a spoon and took a big bite. The sweet and spicy sauce instantly exploded in his mouth. The soft and chewy rice cakes seemed to dance on his tongue. The fish cakes became even softer after soaking in the soup, perfectly complementing the rice cakes. When the spiciness hit, he took a sip of the sweet drink. It was so delicious he couldn't stop eating. Seeing the Duke eat one bite after another, Luana felt greatly satisfied inside. After eating and drinking their fill, the two took a walk by the river. Luana painted him a big picture. Actually, there's something called gimbap that goes even better with the stir-fried rice cakes. Legion immediately shot her an angry look. Then why didn't you make it for me just now? Luana quickly explained. Because I failed at making seaweed yesterday, so I couldn't make gimbap. But if the Duke gives me some more time, I'll definitely succeed. Legion agreed without even thinking about it. In his heart, he was already greatly anticipating the gimbap. Luana shyly transformed into an obedient little girl, feelings slowly growing in her heart. Actually, contract dating wasn't so bad. Through their interactions, Luana became more accustomed to her role as the Duke's fiancée. Legion kept showing her favor, feeding her cake and buying her clothes. A series of strange behaviors made Luana wonder if the Duke liked her. But thinking carefully, how could the bloodthirsty Duke easily like someone? Maybe he just saw her as a nanny who fed him. Perhaps when he breaks the curse and can eat other people's food, he'll quickly lose interest in me. As she was lost in thought, Legion suddenly grabbed her arm. He pulled her into his embrace, their intimate posture, looking to others as if they were kissing. Luana blushed like a startled fawn. Legion whispered to her that someone was following them behind. Luana instinctively turned to look, but was held tightly by Legion. Don't move, I'll go deal with them. He was about to draw his sword, when Luana stopped him, not wanting to see a bloody scene. If that person is a witch, drawing your sword won't do any good. Remember what happened last time? Legion recalled being tricked by a witch before and became furious. Seeing his angry expression, Luana couldn't help but feel relieved. Although his expression wasn't good, at least he listened to her. We don't have to be so rash. I have a good way to shake off the stalker. Under Luana's guidance, the two came to a bustling marketplace. There was no better place to lose a tail than here, with so many people and distractions. Although Legion disdained hiding, he obediently followed for the little maid's safety. The two wandered aimlessly. Luana was attracted by a nearby vegetable stall. She turned and asked, since we're here, can I buy some? Legion was puzzled. Don't we have plenty of ingredients at the mansion? Luana pouted, expressing her dissatisfaction. But we're out of strawberries. The strawberry cake we just ate was so good, it'd be a shame if only I got to eat it. I want to buy ingredients here to make an exact copy for you when we get back. Is that okay? Legion blushed at hearing this. Then go ahead and buy. Don't worry about purchasing, I'll follow right behind you to pay. Suddenly, a downpour started. The two had to pause their shopping and take shelter in the carriage. Luana looked like she'd never seen rain before. Watching the rain from inside a carriage has its own charm. Legion gazed at her tenderly. Did you enjoy today? We'll have more dates like this. If there's anywhere you want to go, just say so. That way you won't regret working with me. Luana looked troubled and was about to answer, when a sudden knock came from outside the carriage. The person claimed to be a royal knight, sent by the emperor to escort Lady Luana to the palace. Legion immediately sensed something was wrong. Luana has been out all day and is very tired. She was just followed by someone and is still shaken. She's not emotionally stable enough to enter the palace. I'll personally bring her first thing tomorrow morning. The knight showed no courtesy. Duke, I respect you, but please cooperate. His Majesty ordered to bring her to the palace immediately. The two were at an impasse. Seeing the situation, Luana immediately came out to ease the tension. I'll go with you. Legion grabbed her hand and whispered, don't go. I have a bad feeling about this. Luana knew she couldn't afford to offend the one in the palace. I appreciate your concern, but if I don't go, I might be charged with rebellion. Then my life would really be in danger. Legion looked worried and reluctant to part. Luana stroked his cheek and planted a firm kiss on his forehead. I'll be fine. You go back first. Legion nodded shyly. I'll wait for you to return. The two exchanged such sweet gazes it could make syrup. The knight awkwardly turned his head away. We should depart now. Luana got in the carriage, only then realizing how crazy her previous action was. To cover up her inner turmoil, she could only comfort herself that it was for the greater good. It was just a forehead kiss, not like they actually kissed on the lips. The carriage suddenly stopped in a forest. The sound of clashing weapons came from outside as knights fell one after another. Luana shrank into a corner in fear. A person in black suddenly opened the carriage door. Without a word, they hoisted Luana over their shoulder and ran off. The little maid was kidnapped on her way to see the emperor. She thought it was just an ordinary kidnapping, but it turned out to be a long-planned abduction. The person in black carried Luana and ran. Princess, don't be afraid. We're not kidnapping you. Luana struggled hard. Forcibly taking someone away is kidnapping. But did you just call me princess? Seeing her settle down, the person in black put her down. What if this is where you're supposed to return to? Luana was suddenly alarmed. Are you talking about the kingdom? Gray hair, green pupils, could you be? Before she could finish, the other person knocked her out. The world finally fell silent. What a troublesome princess. Late at night in the imperial palace. Since parting with Luana, Legion had a bad feeling. He rushed to the palace only to find the emperor never sent a carriage for Luana. Someone had forged the imperial edict. And it wasn't just Luana who disappeared, but also Empress Ingrid. The emperor's face began to contort hideously. He really didn't know when they started preparing. Duke Legion, I order you to rescue Crown Princess Ingrid from the evil forces. With that, the emperor smirked at the duke. By the way, you can find your little princess too. Legion was constantly worried about the little maid's safety. He responded seriously, I obey your command. Meanwhile, Luana woke up from her unconscious state. Ingrid approached worriedly to ask, You're finally awake. Are you alright? Luana then saw the person who kidnapped her. She pointed at him and shouted, He's the kidnapper. The man was indignant. What kidnapper? I have a noble title. Let me introduce myself. I'm Koi of the Duke Island family. Luana's mind raced. The Duke Island family, isn't that the most noble family outside the royal palace? Ingrid looked confused. You really didn't know anything when you were brought here? I specially sent someone to pass a message to you to avoid this situation. Luana was stunned. She recalled the person following her and Legion by the lake earlier. So that person was sent by you to give me a message. I'm sorry, I thought they had ill intentions so I ran away. Ingrid took her hand. That doesn't matter now. What's important is that we never have to go back to the Empire. Luana was a bit panicked hearing this. Why do you say that? Koi on the side couldn't listen anymore and complained, I know you're unwilling. While Princess Ingrid was risking her life to gather the death squad, you were leisurely playing house with the murderer. Just as Koi was about to say something nasty, Ingrid stopped him. Koi was still angry but had no choice but to leave. Luana was puzzled by the term death squad. Ingrid explained to her, the death squad is an army selected from those who swear allegiance to the royal family and the kingdom's people. I summoned them in the name of the kingdom, and those who responded have gathered here. There's only one reason for calling them, and that's to rebuild the kingdom. Luana felt conflicted after hearing this, unsure where she should go. On the little maid's first day away from the Duke, she felt uncomfortable all over. She couldn't understand why she had to stay here. She had no interest in Sister Ingrid's nation-building endeavor. Although everyone called her princess, she had never enjoyed the treatment of one. Because she was the result of the king's momentary lapse with a maid. When the queen found out, she kept her locked up in an abandoned palace, so few people knew about this discarded princess. For Luana, rebuilding the kingdom had no connection to her. But since she was of royal blood, leaving now seemed unreasonable. Yet if she didn't return to the Empire, Legion would still be starving. To stop herself from overthinking, Luana scooped up a large spoonful of food and put it in her mouth. Strange flavors instantly exploded in her mouth. Is this even edible? For a chef, inedible food was absolutely intolerable. She turned to the guards nearby. She asked them for ingredients and started making a large pot of food for the troops. While patrolling, Koi followed the aroma and found Luana. He angrily knocked the food to the ground. Even if she was a princess, she had cooked for the murderer before. What if she put something in the food? Before he could finish, Luana immediately scooped up a spoonful and shoved it in his mouth. I would never joke with food. Taste it first before you judge. Koi was very unwilling, but after chewing a few times, he immediately had to eat his words. The guard saw his expression change and teased, How is it? Isn't it delicious? We've all eaten a lot and nothing's happened. Koi looked Sundara. If you want, I can allow you to use the kitchen, but only under my supervision. Luana agreed without hesitation. I agree. But since you ate my food, help me with something in return. Later, the two came to Ingrid's room. Sister, you haven't eaten yet, right? I made a lot of food, let's eat together. Ingrid didn't open the door. Instead, she told Koi to take Luana to wait for her in the small wooden house in the back. Luana urged her sister, You should come quickly. This won't taste good when it's cold. After the two left, Ingrid turned to Galahad beside her. You heard everything, right? I have to go out. Hurry up and tell me your purpose for coming. Luana arrived at the wooden house her sister mentioned and was immediately attracted by the flower bed. I never imagined there'd be such a beautiful place here. But thinking carefully, she felt like she'd seen these flowers somewhere before. Just as she was pondering, Ingrid's voice suddenly came from nearby. These are common flowers in the kingdom. Although the climate is different from the Empire, they grow well here because this is the border. Luana happily ran to Ingrid's side. Sister, you came out so quickly. Ingrid replied, That's because the food you made smells so good. Luana didn't think much of it and simply invited her sister to taste the meal she had carefully prepared. While they were eating, Ingrid asked, Do you want to go back to the Empire? Luana didn't expect her to be so direct. Her hand holding the fork paused, unsure how to answer. Ingrid saw through her thoughts. I know you don't want anything to do with the kingdom. Luana felt at a loss when exposed. Ingrid patiently persuaded her, Duke Legion is a very dangerous person. He might kill you at any time. No matter what her sister said, Luana couldn't take it in. After spending so much time together, she had come to understand Legion quite well. The Duke's position inevitably makes him sensitive and wary. Actually, he has a very good side. Perhaps you don't really know that person, sister? For her sister's safety, the older sister tried to persuade the little maid to leave the bloodthirsty Duke. But Luana had already fallen into the whirlpool of love. How could she bear to leave? Does sister really understand Legion? Ingrid was stunned by the question. Luana realized her tone was too harsh and quickly explained she didn't mean it that way. Ingrid didn't expect her sister to trust Legion so much. Seeing she couldn't persuade her, she could only stand up to leave. Before leaving, she looked at her sister apologetically and said, "I'm sorry." Back in her room, she saw Galahad again. "Didn't we finish talking? Why haven't you left yet?" Galahad replied, "I'm here to tell you urgent intelligence. You need to change your hiding place. The Empire is pursuing very closely." Ingrid was about to go notify the death squad when Galahad blocked her at the door. "I need to know what you and Luana talked about." Ingrid replied, "I saw she wanted to go back, so I tried my best to persuade her." Galahad leaned in threateningly. "It had better be so. I'm a naturally suspicious person. If you can't fulfill the condition of not sending Luana back to the Duke's side, I won't help you carry out the plan to kill the Emperor either." Meanwhile, Luana was still regretting talking back to her sister earlier. She couldn't understand why she defended Legion, even unable to bear hearing others speak ill of him. More terrifyingly, she had started to care about Legion's thoughts and emotions. Just as she was troubled by this, a guard ran over panting heavily. "Princess, something's happened." Before Luana could react, the guard hurriedly pulled her to gather with the main force. "The murderers are about to arrive, so we have to leave quickly." Hearing this, Luana felt no fear. Instead, her heart was full of anticipation. But thinking carefully, she couldn't stay here, nor could she leave clues, as that would endanger others. So she decided to leave just a small trace. A while later, Legion's troops arrived as well. His subordinates searched all around but saw no trace of anyone. It was as if they had disappeared by magic. Hearing this, Legion ordered the guards to search the surroundings. He himself went to check the kitchen. Before opening the door, he imagined Luana cooking delicious food inside, waiting for him to come eat. But imagination was just imagination. Apart from a few rotten vegetable leaves, the kitchen had nothing else. Legion couldn't help feeling disappointed. Not even a trace here, of all places? He recalled what his subordinate said about escaping without a trace, as if by magic. Although he trusted Luana, under the circumstances he couldn't help but doubt. "Luana, were you really kidnapped? Even though you're not interested in the kingdom, you care a lot about your sister. If you cooperated with her to escape and used magic to help them." Just as he was thinking, a breeze suddenly blew in from outside, revealing a fork on the stove. Legion was stunned. He picked up the fork and examined it carefully. Silver hair, looking at the length it should reach the waist. He couldn't help but smile foolishly. This counts as a clue too. The girl was originally a noble princess, but the emperor, on a whim, destroyed her country and took her for himself. To revive the kingdom, Ingrid was willing to sell her own body, pretending to be in love with the emperor. But privately, the knight had long prepared an escape plan. To get Galahad's help, she was willing to trade her sister. "As long as Luana doesn't return to the Duke's side, I'll keep my promise to help you deal with the emperor." Meanwhile, the naive Luana was thinking only of her sister, and stubbornly missed a chance to return to the Duke's side. At the new base, Luana continued her role as chef. Koi feared she might poison the food, so he watched her closely. Luana was very frustrated. "You don't need to watch me like this. I won't put anything strange in the food." But Koi was still wary of her because she had lived at the Duke's mansion before. On the other side, Legion, who had failed to capture her, was leisurely playing with the strand of hair the little maid had left him. The emperor received news of the Duke's failed pursuit and decided to take action himself. Legion immediately went out to greet him. The emperor said he couldn't sit still in the palace anymore. "I thought you could end this quickly like the last war, but you've really disappointed me this time." Before Legion could explain, the emperor ordered him to gather all the soldiers. "From now on, I'll command personally." Legion asked in confusion, "What do you mean by this?" The emperor polished his sword, his gaze suddenly turning sharp. "Didn't you understand? It means in the next battle, everyone except Ingrid is to be killed." Legion was stunned. Was the emperor planning to kill them all? At that moment, he felt extremely worried about the little maid's safety. The emperor sensed his unease. "What's wrong? Can't let go of that filthy princess?" Legion didn't know how to respond. Suddenly, shouts erupted from outside. Legion rushed out to investigate. 2 soldiers were fighting like madmen. A subordinate reported that they'd been like this since returning from the forest, as if they'd suddenly lost their minds. Besides them, several other soldiers also showed abnormal symptoms. Legion looked toward the forest and asked, "They searched that area, right?" The subordinate followed the Duke's gaze. He saw the forest was surrounded by an eerie mist. Meanwhile, Luana in the forest also sensed something was amiss. Where did all this fog come from? She had been looking for her sister, but now she was lost in this haze. Just as she was trying to find her way out, she heard voices ahead. Driven by curiosity, Luana followed the sound and saw Galahad casting a spell. To her confusion, her sister was there too. It seemed her sister was in league with him. Luana suddenly felt betrayed by family. In her panic, she stepped on a branch. The two in the distance heard the sound and turned to look. Luana had been discovered. She turned and ran. To gain the witch's support, the princess was willing to use her sister and make a deal with Galahad. Ingrid would help him stop Luana from returning to the Duke. Galahad would help her assassinate the Emperor. The two were releasing mist in the forest when Luana stumbled upon them. She couldn't understand why her sister was with him. This made her feel intensely betrayed. At that moment, she thought of Legion. Was he feeling the same way now? Would he also think I betrayed him? Thinking of this, she missed Legion even more. Meanwhile, the Mad Emperor looked at the mist-shrouded forest with strange excitement. This fog might not be a bad thing. The guard beside him looked confused. What do you mean, Your Majesty? This mist surrounds the forest and the soldiers were attacked. This means Ingrid is here. Then the Emperor, as if called by something, staggered towards the forest. To protect the little maid from harm, Legion quickly followed, begging to enter the forest with the Emperor. Luana, while running, collided with Koi. Perhaps due to inhaling too much poison gas, Koi became unusually agitated. He grabbed Luana's shoulders and shook her. Where is Princess Ingrid? Luana tried to struggle. Koi slowly regained his senses. He explained the reason to Luana. The princess left orders forbidding entry to the forest, then disappeared. And she didn't come back for a long time, so I sent members of the death squad to find her. Only one came back. He said the slayer was in the mist. Meanwhile, Ingrid encountered Legion while searching for her sister. Legion heard her calling for Luana and felt worried. Isn't she with you? Ingrid thought he meant to harm Luana and chose to stay silent. Why should I tell you this? You're here to capture me. Now that you've achieved your goal, you just need to take me back for a rich reward. So stop looking for my sister. Seeing Legion's displeased expression, Ingrid bravely voiced her dissatisfaction. Whether in the kingdom or the empire, she's always been locked up. This time, please let her go. Legion sneered, whether in the dungeon or now, you've always been self-centered. He then released his grip on Ingrid. Don't misunderstand. I'm not doing this for you. It's because Luana is safer with you than with me and the Emperor. Ingrid looked at him in disbelief. Before she could speak, Legion pushed her back forcefully. Go protect Luana. Then he disappeared into the mist. Ingrid felt relieved. As she walked, she saw Galahad sitting in a tree. She angrily approached and berated him. Why did you lie to me? Didn't you say the Duke hates all witches and is holding Luana hostage as a member of the witch clan? Galahad replied that it was all true. Ingrid angrily retorted, do you really not know? Or are you pretending not to? Luana and the Duke love each other. They worry about each other and would sacrifice themselves if necessary. As long as we eliminate the Emperor, Luana can safely return to the Duke's side. Galahad heard this and was very displeased. Are you breaking our alliance? Do you think you can kill the Emperor without my help? Ingrid was not afraid at all. It will be much harder. But it's more honorable than taking shortcuts by betraying my sister. The brutal Emperor encounters the crazy beauty. What sparks will fly between them? Ingrid regrets using her sister and decides to part ways with Galahad. Galahad, however, is indifferent. I never expected to get help from humans anyway. But since we were friends, I'll tell you one last thing. Your knight is over there anxiously looking for you. Ingrid heard this and realized something was wrong. She immediately ran in the direction Galahad pointed, but she was still a step too late. She saw Koi die before her very eyes. The Emperor saw his beloved consort arrive and revealed a mad smile. So this is where you were. I've been looking for you for so long. Legion and I have been searching. He looked to the side and found the Duke was not beside him. Where did Legion go? He's really become slack because of that little princess. Ingrid stood frozen, shocked by her subordinate's death, making her hate the Emperor even more. The Emperor slowly extended his hand. Come tu me. If you return now, I'll forgive you. Ingrid trembled with anger. You're talking about forgiveness? The Emperor nodded. That's right. I'll forgive you with my broad-minded generosity. Ingrid drew her sword and pointed it at the Emperor, hysterically expressing her hatred for him. How much more do you want to take from me? My people, my family, my country. You've trampled on everything I cherish. The Emperor replied, but I've given you other things. Money and love that no one else in this world can possess. Ingrid was now heartbroken. I don't care about what you've given. Because among the countless gifts you've given, not one was what I wanted. The Emperor looked incredulous. He hadn't expected that all along, the docility and loving gaze had been fake. Ingrid became more agitated as she spoke. Who would fall in love with their own enemy? You are my nightmare. The biggest regret of my life is knowing you. A world with you is hell for me. The Emperor hadn't expected his passionate love to be worthless in his beloved's eyes. He tried to approach, directly grabbing Ingrid's blade with his hand. It's a pity. You look at me with fear and disgust in your eyes. Actually, I've always known you looked at me this way. Although you said you loved me, when you felt scared, you couldn't hide that look. But it doesn't matter. As long as I can keep you trapped in the palace, and possess you forever, it doesn't matter whether you love me or not. After saying this, the emperor plunged the blade into his own chest. Ingrid was too scared to move. Why are you doing this? The emperor smiled. Isn't this what you wanted? As you wished, I'm giving you my life. Then he raised his hand to caress Ingrid's face. This time, Ingrid didn't dodge, but the emperor fell down forever. Suddenly, heavy rain began to fall, completely dispersing the mist that had robbed people of their reason and made them act foolishly based on their strongest desires. Ingrid successfully achieved her revenge, but she didn't seem to feel happy. When the maid heard her sister was in danger, she hurried to help, but when she arrived, she found two bodies lying beside her sister. Experiencing this for the first time, Luana was quite frightened. Are they both dead? To push her sister towards the duke, Ingrid hid her earlier dejection and put on a cold demeanor. This isn't my blood. It's all from assassinating the emperor. Luana, seeing her sister so cold-blooded for the first time, fearfully stepped back. Ingrid confessed her plan to Luana. To rebuild the kingdom and assassinate the emperor, I used you as an excuse to cooperate with Galahad. Although Luana had already guessed, hearing it from her sister still made her feel sad. So sister was really using me? Ingrid dramatically flipped her hair. Didn't you always say you were just a princess of a ruined kingdom? Even though Ingrid tried hard to appear ruthless, Luana saw through her act at a glance. Sister, when you say such things, you should have a fiercer expression to be convincing. Ingrid hadn't expected her sister to be so perceptive. Luana lovingly grasped her hand. Sister, please tell me the truth. Ingrid, moved by her sister's sincerity, decided to tell her the truth. I listened to you and decided from the day I chose to eat, I would live the rest of my life for the kingdom. But there's no need to implicate you in this duty. I thought the Duke would harm you, so I chose to cooperate with Galahad. For Luana to live happily in the future, Ingrid persuaded her to return to the Duke's side. To prevent her sister from returning to the Empire and being suspected, she asked Luana to act out a scene with her here. Pretend to be betrayed by me and cut ties with your sister who killed the Emperor. Luana was suddenly at a loss. Before she could react, Ingrid had walked to the edge of the cliff. Looking at her sister with reluctance, I hope you can live for your own happiness in the future. After saying this, she pushed Luana down, then quickly disappeared into the forest. A passing knight saw the abandoned Luana and took her back to the camp. Meanwhile, Legion was wandering aimlessly in the forest. He knew betraying his lord was a capital offense, but when he thought of Luana's adorable face, he felt it was all worth it. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile. At this moment, a subordinate rushed to report the news of the emperor's death. Before he could speak, the knight commander said, "Just report to me about the battle in the forest earlier. Because his majesty has passed away." Hearing this, Legion hurried back to the camp. From the traces left at the scene, it appeared to be the work of the man called Koi. Legion fell into thought after hearing this. What happened to that man? The commander replied, that man died not far away. What about the princess? Was she caught? The commander hadn't expected this and looked visibly confused. The princess wasn't caught, but the search party captured someone who said she was betrayed by her own sister. Hearing this, Legion rushed to check. The guarding knights were still discussing the woman's identity, saying she might be a ploy by the enemy to lure Lord Legion. The curtain was lifted, and Legion's expression immediately changed. He angrily ordered the knights to get out. Seeing the person he had been thinking of day and night appear, he could no longer remain calm. The Duke, after much hardship, finally got his little maid back. Although there were many doubts and misunderstandings, for Legion, these were no longer important. He affectionately stroked Luana's cheek. Welcome back. Happiness is always fleeting. On the way back to the city, the two were forced to separate. Luana looked at Lucad with resentment. Why am I sitting in a carriage with you? Lucad retorted, not to be outdone. After their argument, Luana was still in low spirits. Lucad couldn't bear to see this and advised, you really don't know anything. When those in power die, the empire will fall into chaos. People will find a target to blame in order to survive this chaos. Luana heard this and cried out in alarm. That target won't be Legion, will it? Lucad replied, of course not. They will blame the person who killed His Majesty, but Lord Legion, who failed to protect His Majesty, won't escape blame either. General Iberson is walking with the Duke, also because tying someone up would be too obvious, so they chose to monitor instead. Luana turned pale with fear. So Legion will be held responsible for this? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but worry for the Duke. To alleviate her concerns, Lucad comforted her. Not necessarily. Because depending on who the next emperor is, Miss Luana and the Duke's positions might change. This immediately piqued the little maid's curiosity. Who are the candidates for the next emperor? Hearing this, Lookad hesitated whether to tell her. Apart from His Majesty, the one with the noblest bloodline is Lord Duke. Meanwhile, Legion had just regained consciousness. The Knight Commander had also discovered the Duke's noble bloodline. Legion tried to get up. Iberson, what are you trying to do? The other burst into laughter. What, Iberson? It seems the royal bloodline isn't so great after all, foolish enough to be deceived by the same trick again. Legion was furious. Suddenly remembering when he took Luana away last time, don't tell me from that time. Before he could finish, Galahad directly dropped his disguise. You've only just realized? The future of the Empire is worrying indeed. Legion was so angry he almost ground his back teeth to dust. Why on earth are you doing this? Galahad didn't hide anything. My purpose in doing this was to make Luana leave you voluntarily. If she doesn't realize it herself and I forcibly take her away, she'll still run away. Although this method will hurt Luana, it's the most effective. Legion tried to get up and confront him, but brute force was no match for magic. Galahad moved his finger slightly and Legion couldn't move. Then look forward to the more aggravated curse when you open your eyes next time. The Duke avoids seeing the little maid, and refuses to eat the food she makes. To force the Duke to appear, Luana starts making large pots of food, and invites the knights and maids in the mansion to taste it. Lookad looks at the delicious food before him but doesn't dare to eat. You're putting me in a difficult position. Are you trying to bribe me to take you to see the Duke? Luana hurriedly explains, it's not like that. This is an apology. Please enjoy it. Lookad hears this and looks confused. The apology you mentioned, is it for secretly replacing the head chef's food and getting me scolded by the Duke? Or for that time you disguised yourself and secretly followed, only to be discovered by me? Or maybe for hiding under the tray trying to sneak in to see the Duke and getting caught by me? Luana sheepishly scratched her head, not realizing she had done so many embarrassing things. She pointed at the large pot full of food. It's not just for you. I prepared it for others too. Hearing it wasn't prepared just for him, Lookad picked up a spoon and started eating heartily. After that, every day Luana brought Wei and Leo to make delicious food for everyone. Kate had just returned from vacation, and was confused by the busy scene in the kitchen. What's going on here? I heard the Duke hasn't been touching Miss Luana's food lately. Why are you all still so busy? Kate's words immediately angered Wei and Leo. Say that again and we'll stew you. Luana walked up to Kate and replied with a smile, these aren't made for the Duke. In the blink of an eye, the food was ready. The rest was a stew special, stewed ribs, egg custard, and rice. As soon as Luana served the food, everyone was eager to taste it. Kate, standing nearby, was puzzled. It must not be easy to cook for so many ordinary people, right? Why is Miss Luana putting herself through this trouble? I'm not sure either. Although she didn't say the reason, it's not hard to guess from how hard she's working, right? Kate heard this and seemed to understand but not quite. Although I don't know why. But Miss Luana does seem much happier than before. What the servants looked forward to most every day was the delicious food prepared by Luana. After that stew special, there was also a fried special, a snack special, and the much anticipated seafood special. The air in the mansion was filled with the aroma of delicious food every day. Even Legion, who never left his room, could smell it. Why can I smell food everywhere recently? The guard, however, was indifferent. Really? I think it's the same as before. Legion couldn't help but get up to find the source of the smell. It should be nearby. He grabbed the guard's arm. A few small snacks rolled out from inside. The guard hurriedly picked them up, blowing off the dust that had settled on them as if they were treasures. Miss Luana has been giving us various snacks recently. Legion heard this and was filled with jealousy. He looked at the guard with murderous intent. Meanwhile, Luana, who had been busy all day, was exhausted both physically and mentally. After doing this for so many days, there should be some news from that side. As she was thinking, Legion's voice suddenly came from behind. What are you doing? It seemed the little maid had been giving food to others every day. The Duke finally couldn't stand it anymore. So he went to question the little maid when no one was around at night. Luana had already figured out Legion's personality. She knew he hated her making food for others, so she knew the Duke would definitely come to find her. However, the other's presence was so intimidating that Luana's legs went weak. Who allowed you to make food for others? Luana pouted in dissatisfaction. Compared to someone who won't even touch it, I'd rather make it for those who like to eat. Seeing that the little maid still hadn't realized her mistake, Legion immediately put on his battle face. You seem to have misunderstood something. Do you think I'm asking you? This is an order. Stop cooking immediately. Hearing him say this, Luana became even more determined. I won't. Legion was stunned. He never expected the usually obedient little maid to be so rebellious now. Luana's hands still didn't stop working. I said I won't. I should have done this long ago. If you think my behavior is disrespectful and want to expel me from the Empire, or lock me up, even if you want to execute me tomorrow, I don't care. After all, this life was picked up from the execution ground. I've managed to survive, I can't live in fear of doing what I want to do. I refuse such a life. Legion, hearing her impassioned speech, couldn't help but mock. Let's not talk about how absurd this is. I really don't understand. Expulsion, imprisonment, even execution, all for cooking? Luana, however, was unperturbed. What's wrong with cooking? Good food can make people happy. Everyone likes the food I make, and I'm happy. I chose to become a witch because I wanted to see more scenes like this, so this time. Before she could finish, Legion grabbed her arm and started walking out. Luana asked in confusion, "Where are you taking me?" Legion said coldly, "You won't obey my orders, and I don't want to eat your food. I can only make you disappear from my sight." Luana struggled free and shouted nonsensically, "Really? I have something to say before confessing." Legion was stunned. "Do you know what you're saying?" Luana realized she had misspoken and quickly covered her mouth. But since the words were already out, what was there to be afraid of? Then she shyly gripped her skirt, pouring out all the words buried in her heart. "Although I'm happy making food for everyone, I don't know why I'm still not satisfied. My heart feels very empty. What I really want to see is Legion's satisfied face after eating the food I make." Legion blushed, not knowing how to respond. Luana directly handed him a plate of food. "Before you eat this dish, I won't listen to anything you say." Legion, however, replied with a dark face that he couldn't eat it. Luana was extremely disappointed. After saying all that, he still won't eat? Her pitiful little face made Legion feel a bit heartbroken, so he decided to tell her the truth. "You've misunderstood. When did I ever say I dislike the food you make? I really want to put the food you make in my mouth and savor it slowly. But this desire isn't for the food, it's for you. During this time, I refused to eat the food you made because I was afraid that after eating your cooking, I wouldn't be able to control myself anymore." Luana saw Legion so frenzied for the first time and was too scared to speak. "Is this the curse mutating? Has the curse worsened?" Thinking of this, Luana suddenly understood everything. The only person who could make the Duke like this was Galahad. She was just thinking about this, when Legion suddenly came closer. "But you say you love me like this?" Then his lips slowly approached Luana's. Just as he was about to kiss her, he gave up. Perhaps he was afraid that once he kissed her, he wouldn't be able to stop, or perhaps he was afraid of hurting his beloved little maid. With no other choice, Legion had to pretend to be cold, and cruelly drive Luana out of the empire. To prevent himself from losing control and devouring the little maid, the Duke decided to heartlessly drive her away and promised to give her enough money to live comfortably for the rest of her life. Hearing this, Luana stated that no matter what happens, she won't leave. Legion looked at her coldly. "Don't be so stubborn. I just wanted to eat you up a moment ago." Luana gathered her courage and decided to face this with him. "I have a method I want to try to break free. Just like the prince who turned into a beast because he didn't understand love, once he realizes what love is, he'll turn back into a human. The curse can only be broken when the person it's cast on changes. The witch who cast this curse did so because that person ignored the care and enthusiasm of those who made food for him, which made her angry. So you need to understand that feeling and then make food yourself." Luana's words made Legion fall into deep thought. "I understand what you mean, but how do you know so much about the content of the curse?" Luana only then realized she had said too much. Because the Duke still didn't know that the one who cast the curse was her own mother, she nervously stepped forward to explain. But thinking carefully, if she told him, what if he grouped her with the enemy? Legion saw her hesitation and didn't press further. "Forget it, that's not important. I believe you, and currently this is the only method we have. I'll do as you say." To prevent himself from losing control and devouring the little maid, the Duke called for 2 helpers who could restrain him. The 2 arrived in the kitchen. Seeing his pink attire, they were shocked. Legion turned back confidently. With a fierce look, he said, "Don't make a fuss. Just do your job." The 2 immediately deflated like frostbitten eggplants and obediently stood to the side. Luana bounced over to the Duke's side. "Now that everyone's here, let's start cooking. First, please hold the knife with your right hand, and cut the onion." Before she could finish, Legion chopped down forcefully. Not only was the onion shattered, but so was the cutting board. Luana hadn't expected his destructive power to be so strong. Frightened, she quickly changed tactics. "Cutting vegetables is a bit dangerous. Let's knead dough instead." Legion imitated the motion of kneading dough, but his strength was too great, and the dough was torn to pieces in his hands. Luana wanted to start by teaching him to activate the dough, but Legion poured a full jar of water into the mixing bowl. Luana was dumbfounded by his operation. Legion awkwardly explained, "I knew I had no talent for cooking, but I didn't think I was this bad." Luana confidently replied, "It's okay, you have me." A few hours later, Legion was working hard. Luana was cheering him on from the side, and the kitchen had become a mess. The 2 helpers were running around frantically. Legion hadn't realized cooking was so difficult. He looked at the little maid lovingly. "You've been working hard all this time." Luana shyly turned her head to the side. "It's not like that. I'm the food witch now, so it's not that tiring. No matter how hard or tiring cooking is, when I think of the person who will eat my food, I'm filled with energy. Hearing Luana's words, Legion suddenly had an epiphany. He was immediately filled with fighting spirit and said to Luana, let's try again. Inspired by the little maid, the Duke became more confident in cooking. Just thinking about the little maid happily eating his cooking filled Legion with determination. He confidently picked up an onion and chopped it on the cutting board. Fortunately, this time the cutting board wasn't split, and the onion was cut into appropriately sized pieces. The cooking of ingredients also went quite smoothly. Suddenly, a young girl floated towards Legion. You've kept me waiting for so long. I am Alana, the previous food witch. I'm the one who put the curse on you. To break your curse, I've temporarily entered your consciousness. Legion stared at her intently. You look very much like Luana. Alana looked surprised. You don't know yet? I'm Luana's mother, of course we look alike. Legion heard this and turned away, muttering, so that's how it is. That's good. It means the one who cast the curse wasn't Luana. The Duke's reaction surprised Alana. She had thought he would resent Luana. Now it seemed she had worried unnecessarily. Fortunately, you're not a fool like me who pursues parents' crimes. Then Alana summoned a halo of light that enveloped Legion's head. After removing the curse from him, she told him he could go back now. I'll leave Luana in your care, little Duke. Legion suddenly awoke. Luana was smiling stupidly at him nearby. Duke, this is the first time you've completed a proper dish. It's not burnt or ruined, and it even smells good. Legion pondered. Was what the witch said about my curse being lifted true? To verify, he asked the little maid to taste it for him. Luana had been eager to try. She scooped up a big spoonful and put it in her mouth. The sweetness of the food filled her entire mouth. It's really delicious. Legion's face turned slightly red. So this is how it feels to watch someone you like eat food you made. Luana looked puzzled. What did you say? Legion affectionately stroked her cheek. I have something I want to ask of you. A few days later, Galahad appeared in the palace, looking confused. What's going on? I clearly received a letter telling me to leave the palace immediately, so I came. Legion replied seriously, I wanted to invite you for a meal, but I knew you wouldn't come if I was this free. Galahad heard this and turned to leave. Legion quickly brought out his trump card. If I said I saw Alana, would you still leave? Galahad obediently sat down and tentatively asked, the curse is lifted, huh? Legion replied, that's right. If it weren't for Luana, I couldn't have done it. Galahad looked displeased. So you called me here to mock me? To prove in front of me that everything I did was in vain? Legion explained, I invited you here because I wanted to get your consent before proposing to Luana. After experiencing hardships, people finally achieve their goals. The Duke wants to marry the little maid. Before the wedding, he called for Galahad. To gain the approval of the bride's family, Legion tried to use money to solve the problem. But who knew Galahad wouldn't fall for that at all? The grudge between the Duke's mansion and the witch clan couldn't be resolved with money. Hearing this, Legion had no choice but to apologize properly. To marry his bride, he had to pacify the grudge between the two clans. He took his bride's small hand and gently kissed it. If necessary, I can put aside all my pride and beg her family for forgiveness. Galahad turned away speechless. He asked Luana, tell me honestly. Are you staying here because you're afraid, forced or threatened by that guy, or are you truly happy and choosing to stay here? Luana blushed and answered firmly, yes, I deeply love Legion and I'm very happy every day I'm here. Hearing his bride's confession, the Duke couldn't help but smile. Galahad was so annoyed by the two that he was speechless. For the sake of the little witch's happiness, he decided to let go of his grudge against the Duke. Before leaving, he warned Legion, I still don't fully trust you. I just don't want to be a stumbling block in Luana's life path. If you dare to mistreat her, I'll come back anytime to take her away. Finally, he offered Luana sincere blessings, I wish you happiness on the path you've chosen. With that, he turned and left. A few days later, Luana and Legion held a grand wedding. When it came time to cut the cake, they found that the cake was missing a layer. Luana was puzzled. There were clearly 4 layers. Why are there only 3 now? Until she saw the corner of Legion's mouth that he hadn't cleaned in time, she couldn't help but smile bitterly. She cupped her husband's face and wiped it. Really, you ate so much yesterday too. Aren't you tired of it? Legion gripped his wife's hand tightly. He pulled her forcefully into his arms. How could I be? This was made with love by the person I adore. The two kissed amidst applause and cheers from everyone. And so, the story of the Duke and the little maid comes to an end. It's finished. Thank you all for your support. There will be new comics updated later, don't forget to subscribe and like. It really means a lot to me.